Let's face it, buying a vehicle should be straightforward and stress-free, and that's exactly how Two Rivers Ford has been doing business for decades. This locally owned dealership has a non-commissioned sales team whose only focus is to find you the right vehicle at the right price without the pressure. So you'll actually have a fun car buying experience. Great prices, easy financing, and a non-commissioned sales team. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Would you look at that? We got a good local sports story to open with instead of the gloom and doom that has been the football season. Congratulations to Nashville Soccer Club for the U.S. Open Cup victory that they were able to perpetuate. They beat Austin FC last night 2-1. It's the first trophy in franchise history.
Eat it, McConaughey.
Eat it. Matthew McConaughey. The club has put out edited videos of Matthew McConaughey from his role in Interstellar, sobbing.
Watching the highlights.
While watching the highlights of his club's defeat. Yes, you went in there and you took it from him, and it's got to feel pretty good today.
Big moment, big moment. Your biggest stars coming up. Sam Surridge scoring the game winner from the penalty spot in the second half. Hani Mukhtar opening the scoring in the 17th minute, stepping up when it matters most. Squad depth throughout the entirety of the competition. Brian Schwacke, Nashville's number 2 goalkeeper. This was his competition from the start. Nashville stuck with him throughout the course of it, and he was excellent yesterday. Saved a penalty kick, made sure that beyond the one goal Austin grabbed right before halftime, that Nashville was going to come away winners. So pretty cool, man. Pretty cool moment for that club in the journey from 2020 to now, the evolution that they've had in their play style while maintaining a lot of the foundational pieces that made up that team. That game at Nissan Stadium against Atlanta in February 2020. Walker Zimmerman was on the field. Dan Lovitz was on the field. Hani Mukhtar was on the field. They've been able to revolutionize the way that they play with a lot of those same guys still being stars for Nashville Soccer Club. So really cool moment, and hopefully that'll just be a launch pad for more success to come for Nashville.
So if you're unfamiliar with the U.S. Open Cup, as I was, it is the country's oldest and longest running soccer competition. It is a 111-year-old competition, 96 teams, all level of soccer, ends with Nashville and Austin squaring off, and Nashville comes out the victor. And we talked about this yesterday. The best teams, the teams with the best story en route to some level of accomplishment. This isn't the Super Bowl. It's not the Stanley Cup. We don't have to get crazy with it. But it's still the first trophy in club history, and that's a big deal. There's precious. I'm not turning my nose up at any level of winning around here for local sports if I'm a Nashville sports fan. And the thing that I said yesterday that made me feel like it was a better story than them just being dominant the whole way through is that what did they lose? 6 of 7 from basically the end of July
in MLS regular season play, yes,
to mid-September. I mean, they were floundering there for a minute. And I know that some of the results were closer than others, but still, they were tested and they responded and they stiffened up and went out there and got the cup. So we're happy about that.
Quick turnaround. They're right back at it Saturday. They jump back into MLS regular season play up to Montreal. So the celebration short-lived last night. They'll refocus. 2 more games left in the regular season before they'll have their eyes on another trophy in the MLS Cup playoffs. There will be a celebration Sunday, 5 p.m. at Geodis Park that Nashville SC fans can attend. I don't know if you saw the turnout yesterday at the plaza outside of Geodis. Tons of Nashville SC fans watching a game there on the big screen.
Oh, cool. Just
really cool moments. Think about 10 years ago when it was just a concept, professional soccer in Nashville.
Where were they playing? Like as an NS? What's the lower level below MLS?
When they came in as a USL club in 2018, they were playing at the Sounds Ballpark.
That's
for
right.
a couple of years. And the cool thing is, it was all the same leadership. Ian Ayer, the CEO, Mike Jacobs, the general manager at the time, Gary Smith, the head coach that was their head coach heading into their inaugural season of Major League Soccer, where they established a high floor, right? Got to a couple conference semifinals, got to that Leagues Cup final, and then the results tailed, and they needed a change. They needed a boost, and they go get B.J. Callahan. That impressed as an assistant and the interim coach for the U.S. men's national team. And what he's done in just over a calendar year is remarkable, turning them around and their attractive brand of soccer, the way that they play, the way that they press, they score goals, they create chances. They're just fun to watch, and their biggest stars are the ones that contribute and step up in the biggest moments. And we saw that in the final yesterday. So very, very cool moment for the club. And this also opens the door for them. Now, Nashville automatically qualifies for CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is the continental competition. The entirety of North America will play out that tournament. It'll be sprinkled in throughout the course of the season next year. And if you win CONCACAF Champions Cup, you qualify for Club World Cup, where you get to compete with the likes of Real Madrid and Manchester City and some of the biggest clubs on the planet, which we saw how big that competition was in the U.S. this past summer. So it opens doors, and it just continues to elevate your status as a club. That's why you do this. You do it to win trophies. And you have multiple opportunities to do that, but you never take it for granted when you have a moment to seize and jump onto, and Nashville did that last night.
Robert, your thoughts?
Love it. Everyone knows I have been a huge supporter of Nashville SC from day one.
Can you fit in that jersey they sent you?
Yes. Yeah, I can.
He wears it often.
I do wear that jersey. The jersey that Lucas got me from Brazil, though, is more of a belly tank.
That's the tank top.
That's Cheyenne's jersey now.
I love the concourse. Love your tequila shots. Love your empanadas. Very nice bathrooms. Love Geodis.
Nice bathroom.
They do have nice bathrooms.
They do have nice bathrooms.
Nice
I
bathrooms.
don't know that I've ever been in the bathroom at Geodis.
I don't think you've ever been in a public bathroom.
Very
Just-
spacious.
Just that one time out at Hardee's out of pure necessity.
Plenty of room to do your business. Plenty of room for activities in those bathrooms.
Very good. So it is not as significant as winning MLS, like winning winning the league necessarily. That would be more comparable to the equivalent of a Super Bowl in the NFL or the World Series or anything like that.
Yeah,
right? Like
it'd be more comparable.
I want to know obviously it's an accomplishment. Talk to me like I'm 5. Where should how should I treat this other than to be excited for a club that is relatively, it's still pretty much in its infancy at this point. They're the newest professional sports franchise that the city of Nashville has. They
Year
are
6.
the most successful at this point based on, the Preds have been to a conference final. The Titans have been to a conference championship game. They have won a conference championship game. So would this be equivalent to winning your conference, or is that yet a different comparison?
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, should I not compare them at all?
Yeah,
should I just be excited that somebody's got a trophy and thank God we've got a good sports team somewhere? I'm fine with that.
Well, there's nothing like this in the NBA and NFL, right? This wide open competition where if you are even a semi-pro team, if you are an independent semi-professional team, you are qualified to be and participate in the U.S. Open Cup. Like you said, 96 teams.
Yeah.
So there's nothing like that across American sports, right? If I'm going to compare it to something that the general audience would be more familiar with, I suppose I could compare it to winning a major in golf, right? You play these tournaments throughout the course of the year, and then there's there's exactly 4 each year that are majors that really create a legacy for a professional golfer. And let's say you are a golfer that has won the PGA Championship 3 times, but you've never won the Masters. The Masters become of such high priority then, right? Even though I wouldn't say the Masters are the same in terms of pedigree as the PGA Championship. Okay, we'll put it the other way around. If you've won the Masters 3 times and you've never won the U.S. Open Cup or the PGA Championship in golf, then those become more important. It's a lot like that in soccer, where whatever is right in front of you is the most important thing. It's the most tangible thing that you can win right there. And for Nashville, that was the U.S. Open Cup last night. It has been throughout this competition. So think of it more like a major. It's a trophy. That's why you do this as a club. That's why you play. It's why you coach as a supporter. These are the moments that you live for. And now they get to turn around and compete for another trophy in the MLS Cup playoffs that, to your point, would be more comparable to going on a run in the NFL playoffs and winning a Super Bowl or winning an NBA Finals or a Stanley Cup final.
Brandon brings up something funny on YouTube. What if they did that for football, too, and we could get some of these semi-pro football teams with 54-year-olds still trying to keep the dream alive out there against the Kansas City Chiefs? Would you like that, Robert?
No.
Okay.
I want them to play somebody that's going to beat them.
Somebody that's going to beat the Chiefs?
Yes. I don't want them to play 50-year-olds so everybody can slobber all over Patrick Mahomes. Oh, look at Travis Kelce. He looks much younger next to these geriatrics. Get out of here.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is how you can get involved in the comment section. You can do exactly that. We're going to get back into football stuff because the former Titans general manager is trolling the team on Instagram, which delighted me yesterday. We are going to play some Cosell. Coming up next, we taped a new episode of The Install. The question about Cam Ward and regression. Many of you thought that was a silly conversation to have, except when the football analyst tells you that, no, there are signs of regression there. And we are going to hear from Cosell next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. I went to Hattie B's yesterday. It was delightful. I went with a fried chicken sandwich this time. Not normally a grilled tenders guy, but I had a craving for a fried chicken sandwich, medium heat, a little potato salad, a little Diet Coke. I'm not a big Diet Coke person. I tried, but I feel that I should probably just stick with Coke Diesel. I don't think that there's a thing that is more satisfying than just a cold Coca-Cola. There are a few things that hit as hard as that.
Diet Coke is gross. Let's be honest.
I tried.
It tastes so much worse than
People
regular
are
Coke.
obsessed with it, though.
They are, and it took me until like last year to realize that people get super addicted to Diet Coke because the caffeine content is like way higher than regular Coke.
Really?
Yes.
That makes sense. So instead of coffee, people are drinking Diet Coke.
Yes.
Oh.
Which I never got. I never got the Diet
That's
Coke thing because
disgusting.
it is unquestionably worse tasting than a regular Coca-Cola.
Where do you guys, well, it's also got way less sugar and calories. Where do you guys stand on the zeros? You drink like Pepsi Zero, Coke Zero?
I don't know that I've ever had it.
Dude, they're fantastic. Lucas hates them with a passion because I think his roommate drinks them, but I'm here to tell you, if you just need a little sody, there is no difference. Get you a zero. That's why I drink those DDP zeros all the time.
Well, it is being alleged that 4 games is not a big enough sample size for there to be a difference in Cam Ward's play from game 1 to game 4 between the opener at Denver and the most recent shutout against the Houston Texans. Brian Callahan felt that it was too early to put, as he called it, a regression tag on Cam Ward. Greg Cosell, in our taping of the install this morning, in which you can hear the full episode via your favorite podcast feed or on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel at your convenience, Cosell says there are signs of regression. This is our conversation. Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. We are going to talk about a variety of different things today, Greg, but, coming off the difficulty that was the Texans game for the local professional football team, Titans are 0-4 at this point in time. The Colts and Jags at 3-1. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on them later in the podcast, but right now it's about the development of the young quarterback and making sure that he doesn't get into bad habits. And that's the thing that we're not there yet. 4 games is not a large enough sample size to talk about regression. But I wonder, Greg, when you watch him or when you've watched him to this point, what you're seeing potentially that he has to be cautious of and that the staff has to be cautious of.
And I think that's the biggest concern with a young quarterback in an offense where the O-line is just not playing at the necessary level. And quite frankly, there's not a lot of clean looks and clean reads for him that have shown up on tape through 4 games. So you're starting to see, and it's been gradually coming, and it needs to be really nipped in the bud as much as it can be. You're starting to see a little bit of a regression in the lower body mechanics, a little bit of the drifting, a little bit as if he's anticipating that he's going to be pressured. And unfortunately, he's not wrong about that, which, that's why it starts to happen, because the pressure starts to become just part of every game, and you just don't feel like you're going to drop back, particularly when you get into longer yardage or third down situations. And obviously through 4 games, they're the worst third down conversion team in the league. You just start to drop back thinking, okay, I'm going to be pressured. So what that often does is it speeds you up mentally, and it also impacts your physical mechanics. And those are 2 things you don't want to have happen when you're a quarterback. You don't want to be speeded up mentally. I always think of, and this is a different sport, the old John Wooden, the basketball coach at UCLA, who maybe some of our younger listeners don't even know who that is. But John Wooden, I know you know who he is. He had that phrase, be quick, but don't hurry. And that was obviously a basketball thing, but it's true in any sport for an athlete. You have to do things. Obviously, when you take the snap for a quarterback, you only have 2.53 seconds to particularly if it's a deeper drop. But yet you can't let that dictate how you play. You can't think, oh my God, I got to play fast. I only got 2.5 seconds. Everything has to be comfortable. And the last thing you want to see with young quarterbacks is they start to play into the fact that, oh my God, I only have a small amount of time. Now I've got to start playing faster. Because when you start doing that physically and you lose your mechanics, the mental part falls apart. because mentally you hear in all sports, but athletes say, well, it's slowed down for me. You hear that all the time when guys start to get a feel for things. Oh, the game's slower now. You hear that in sports where there's a lot of move. Obviously, baseball's different. It's a different kind of sport. But you hear that in basketball, in hockey, in football. Oh, things are starting to slow down. You want to get there as a quarterback where, you're not seeing just movement of all these people. And it's like, oh my God, there's a lot of people moving. You want to be able to really focus in on what you need to focus in on, be mentally comfortable in what you're seeing, and therefore your body doesn't speed up.
Yeah.
That's a concern that's a concern you always face with young quarterbacks when they're under so much pressure, is they just start to speed up.
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Greg, but I
you're
feel like I'm noticing it with Lamar, right? Because he's dealing with protection issues right now. So it's not just Lamar is young still, technically by the standard definition. This is a veteran quarterback. You can get sped up in any offense,
and he can move. And Cam Ward is not Lamar, but he does have movement ability. The quarterbacks that can't move, that are pure pocket guys, there's fewer and fewer of those guys, because even the pocket guys can move to some degree now because athletes are just better than they were 30 years ago. But the guys who grew up being pocket quarterbacks, they tend, not all of them, there's no hard and fast rules here, by the way, just so people understand that. But those guys tend to figure it out more from the pocket because they know that they can't do anything else at a meaningful level. The guys who can move, they pretty much know that they can make plays. Like I watched Jackson Dart in his first start. As far as playing the position, the way we think about playing the position and the way it's coached, he wasn't very good at all. But he moved and he made plays with his legs because he knows he can do that. And he's probably always been able to do that from the time he picked up a football and played quarterback at 10 years old or whatever age he was. A Tom Brady type. Okay. That guy knows he can't move. So from the time he started playing, he was always thinking about how can I get the ball to someone else? So it's a whole different mindset of how you play the position.
Absolutely. I think on Cam Ward's side of things, we'll talk briefly about Arizona here in just a second because it's an interesting defense that Jonathan Gannon has.
It's fascinating and a tough defense to play against because of some of the things they do. And you almost have to get into the weeds a little. And if we do, I'll try to explain it, as clearly as I can, because you almost have to see it. But they do some different things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. This is not going to be a high-powered offensive game. I think that I'm getting ready to go witness in Arizona here this week. Given the injuries for the Cardinals, that's for either side. It's going to be curious to see. But before we do transition to Arizona, Greg, I wanted to ask you about the Titans defense because people see the score and you watch the game and you're looking for touchdowns as a fan. You're looking for the exciting big plays, but the defense in this game for the Titans, I know Houston's not world beaters on offense right now, and they got issues of their own. But I wonder what you saw from not just the defense, but in particular what you're seeing from Jeffrey Simmons through the first month.
Let me tell you something. I'm just going to say it this way. On Sundays, I watch Red Zone, so I'm not seeing every play of every game because then I watch the tape. So, I saw how the game progressed because, Red Zone shows, you know how each game goes. And all of a sudden, just on Sunday, it's like 6-0 late in the third quarter. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've seen Houston all three of their games prior on offense, and I know that they're not playing well as an offense, but still, I would bet the 6-0 score, as far as the defense, surprised a lot of people at that point. And then obviously they ended up losing 26-0 when it kind of fell apart a little bit in the fourth quarter. But then I put the tape on, and I got to tell you, Buck, I thought the Titans defense played at a really high level. And what look, defense, you can notice on defense when guys are flying around. I mean, I'm not beyond the tactics. Okay. You can notice, and they were flying around, and some individuals played at a really high level. We can talk about Jeffrey Simmons all day. The guy's played great through 4 games, but he was a dominant factor in this game. I thought Cedric Gray, right from the start, played really well in this game. I mean, you saw the quick trigger in the run game. He saw it and he hit gaps with burst and tenacity. He played with physicality, attacking and taking on blocks in the run game. He still needs work in the pass game. And in fact, later in the game, they took him out in some obvious passing situations and played some dime instead of staying nickel. That's the area that a lot of people thought he needed work in anyway when he came out of North Carolina. But I thought in the run game, he played really well. They played Jalen Armour-Davis every snap at corner opposite Snead. I mean, just in terms of physical traits, he's far above Jarvis Brownlee. And I'm sure that's why the trade was made, because they knew what they had with Armour-Davis, and he played well. Wasn't challenged a lot, but I was watching him on almost every snap when he had a run with receivers, and he played well. But just the defense as a whole, I thought they played really, really well. And, it was a shame that the offense couldn't score. And then, of course, you had that long play, the 2nd and 32 to Collins for 37 yards. I guess only Snead can tell you what his thought process was. Maybe he was expecting an in-breaking route because he kind of stopped his feet and then Collins ran right by him. I can't tell you what was in his head, Buck. And that's the stuff I don't know. But I mean, so I can't speak to that. But obviously he got beat, and then, the touchdown to Higgins later in the game, it was a slot fade and they were playing man and they had Hooker on him. That's just the way it matched up. And you had Hooker on a wide receiver. Safeties get beat by wide receivers in this league. Sometimes that happens. But the fourth quarter, obviously it did fall apart a little bit, but for 3+ quarters, I thought it was a really, really strong defensive performance.
Yeah. And it's just the margin for error, Greg, is non-existent when you don't score.
And I hope people understand that. It just gets hard because every play gets magnified. Like, let's say, look, obviously that Snead giving up the 37-yarder, we know it quote unquote can happen. But let's say they were winning the game at that point, 17-7. It's still not a good play, but you don't go, oh my God, that's just horrible. You're 100% right. When there's no margin for error, every play gets magnified. Every bad play gets magnified.
God knows we've talked enough about the Titans in that specific context in these last couple of years. So now let's talk about Arizona. Titans and Arizona don't see each other very often.
No.
In fact, it's been since 2021, I think, when Kyler Murray and the Cardinals came to Nissan Stadium and put on a bit of a performance. Chandler Jones had like a 5-sack day.
I remember that.
In that game. Yeah. Taylor Lewan still remembers that game for a variety of different reasons. But things have changed. Coordinators have changed.
Well, now that he's a big star on ESPN, he probably is not thinking about that too much.
I don't know. I think it still haunts him a little bit, Greg. I talked to him enough. I think he still thinks about it. Gets brought up to him on the internet enough, God knows.
Right.
With Kyler Murray, and again, untrained eye, which is why we talk to the trained professionals around here. I don't know what Kyler Murray is as a quarterback, and he is significantly into his NFL career. Now, I know that there are some things that he does well and some things that you're still looking for improvement on as he, gets more time in this system. But I wonder what your evaluation of him in this specific offense has been.
Murray has always been a very difficult evaluation for me. Now, let's remember one thing. That any given day, he can make special plays. You never know when that's going to be. It could be this Sunday. He could run around and make 3 unbelievably special plays and they can put up 30. The kind of plays that are hard to defend because they're totally outside of structure. He can do that any given week. Okay, so let's start there. But if those don't happen, and again, you can't count on those plays, as you know, Buck. You can't go into a game saying, just run around out there and see what happens, but he can do that. He obviously can do that. And you have to game plan in a way to minimize his ability to get out of the pocket in critical down and distance situations like the 3rd and 9s, so he doesn't then run for 20 yards. You've got a game plan for that without question. You can't play him like you play CJ Stroud, for instance. Okay. But when all's said and done, and I've watched Murray and tried to really come up with my evaluation for years now, he leaves the expression we use is he leaves a lot of throws on the field, meaning that there's clean throws that he just doesn't make. And at times he can't see over his O-line. That's evident on the tape. Other times he's just too reactive to bodies that he perceives as pressure, but is really not pressure. But he's 5'10" and an 8. So he sees that differently than a guy who's 6'3". And because of that, there's other times he drops his eyes and he breaks down and looks to run when he actually has space. So all these things show up pretty much every week. And at his core, he's not really a natural or a fine timing and anticipation thrower. So what he is a guy that any given week can make special plays. And if he does it in that week, boy, you can get beat, and you can get beat badly. But you just don't know. You've got to really game plan to prevent him from doing those kinds of things.
So that is a portion of the conversation that we had this morning, Greg Cosell and me, on the Install, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can watch it on YouTube as well if you would like to watch the full episode. So, do we feel any better about the Titans' performance? I know it's hard to feel good about a 26-0 loss. But if the Titans are trailing still 6-0 because they're doing what they're supposed to do, right? They're stopping a bad Houston Texans offense. But the offense it gives you nothing. I mean, literally nothing. You miss field goals. You have some success running the football, but it becomes fleeting. You can't get guys open in your passing game. And so all of a sudden, Snead gives up the big play, and Snead becomes the dog for that because of his pregame comments and all these things. But in theory, like if you're on a even below average NFL offense, you got a little more wiggle room to where one play just doesn't nuke you the way that one play seemed to.
Yeah, and there's nothing that can make you feel better about a performance where you were shut out offensively. I think Denard Wilson deserves some credit this year, right? I mean, when you talk about the three phases, special teams obviously has improved. I know Joey Sly missed both field goals, but we can all agree that is worlds better than what it was, especially through the first half of last season. And defensively, considering the Titans do not have much of a pass rush. Outside of Jeffrey Simmons, they hardly have any semblance of a pass rush. And yet still, there's been a couple of good defensive performances this season. Winning defensive performances, right? Performances that are good enough to win if you can just get something, get some sort of complimentary football. And we saw it happen far too often last year that the defense would hang in, and then the dam would just break. And that's what happened in Houston. Gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter, and that's been the story of the season. Titans have been outscored 41-10 in the fourth quarter this season. So it's
41-10.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the same of what we saw last year.
God.
End of the day, you look at point totals and yards given up and touchdowns, and you say, okay, poor defensive performance. But at some point, how much more can you ask of the Titans' defense, man? Sunday is a great example. And I know the Texans' offense has been struggling, but you also go in getting ready to play an offense that hasn't found any success and hope to continue that trend. And they did. They did that. And at some point, you're just asking too much of the Titans defense. By definition, you're asking too much of the Titans defense. If you don't score a single point, then there is literally nothing the defense can do to win you that game beyond scoring defensive touchdowns.
And that's, you can't, you're hoping and praying and wishing for something at that point, right? Like, field goals and good defense are no way to survive, and that's the way that this team seems to try to survive. And, of course, they're not surviving anything. They're getting dusted at every turn because they can't continue. They cannot continue to look this way on offense. Now, it sounds like there is at least some cautious optimism about J.C. Latham playing this week, though he did not practice yesterday. We do have an injury report. Calvin Ridley, by the way, DNP,
he popped
with both a knee and an elbow issue. Is something to keep an eye on. Now, Calvin's obviously not been a boon to the offense. I mean, is there any logic to the idea? Because remember when DeAndre Hopkins was still in the lineup, and he was dealing with an injury early in the year before they ended up moving him. But it was like this weird, they couldn't figure out how to get Calvin and D-Hop going in the same game. And then when they removed DeAndre Hopkins from the situation, Ridley became more. Now, Ridley was also dropping balls at the start of the season last year, too. Like, that was also a thing. But is there any logic to the idea of, well, if Calvin Ridley's not out there to drop targets, could there be the potential for more consistent wide receiver play? It's crazy to say about a $92 million player, but, I mean, for God's sakes, the man's wearing horse blinders at practice to try and be better about catching the football. I don't know what else to do with Calvin Ridley.
But even then, we've had this conversation already. If you are in a place where your fourth-round rookie, as impressive as he's been, is your number one best option at receiver, then you're in trouble.
I mean, they're in trouble. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yes, they are in trouble, but could they be in less trouble if they have some? I mean, Alec is more reliable than Calvin is. So if Calvin's just not on the field, I mean, God forbid we get the Xavier Restrepo call up from the practice squad, and that brings back that hive of people that just thinks that everything will be fixed because they put a wide receiver out there that runs a 4.8 40 or whatever his actual 40 time ended up being.
Or even worse, James Prochet.
You have to stop treating this man like a war criminal. How long ago was that interception that he threw for the Ravens?
Oh, probably like 2020, 2021.
Yeah, okay. It's 5 years ago. It's okay.
It's still real to me, damn it.
You can let go.
I can't.
I asked Jeff Simmons yesterday in the locker room about defending Kyler Murray because obviously Kyler Murray ran circles around them in the 2021 home opener. I think that was the season opener in 2021. Let's hear from Jeffrey. Did you edit this, by the way? Because he does cuss.
Ooh. Guess we'll have to find out.
About to have a
keep him in the well. You got to keep him in the pocket. He's a guy that, make a lot of plays with the legs. He want to throw on the run. If we could keep him in the well, keep him in the pocket, we could disrupt the middle of the pocket. All edge players have to play good. They have to make sure. Well, I'm not even going to say all edge players. Us up front got to play good. We got to be able to collapse the pocket. We have to be on the same page, rushing against a guy like this. I think last time, I can remember he took my ankles from me one time. So it's like one of the things when you get him in space and if you let him get out the pocket, he can hurt your defense. He can throw in the ball. He throwing the ball off his back leg. It's a little like a baseball player, which we all know he is a baseball player. So I think at the end of the day, when we're on the same page, rushing together up front, we'll have some success against this guy. But the first thing is going to be able to stop the run.
So that's Jeff Simmons in the locker room featuring Arden Key.
It got dumped.
I'm just not going to use any locker room
audio is impossible right now.
Anything anybody sends me, I'm not pulling it anymore. I'm so tired of it.
No, it's fair. It's fair. Because I didn't hear it. You guys heard it before I did. But,
well, I mean, I listened to it 3 times and didn't hear it till it aired. So,
well, we dumped it though, right? I mean,
yeah, it
got dumped.
YouTube heard it, but who cares?
Yeah, congrats to the FNM Bank chat who gets to hear the cuss words.
It's just dumb when it's like, did you edit this? And I'm like, maybe. And then the first word out of somebody's mouth is bleep. Are you kidding me? Like, why can't they just get it out of their... I don't know.
The locker has been a very expletive-filled
there's just no...
season.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, all right.
It's their space. I get it.
No. But there's also, like, what time we're going to be in there. And... it is their space. You are correct, but there was a time when those things were governed about, hey, let's maybe not play Foursquare and yell and scream and curse while media is interviewing Jeff or Calvin or what have you. Like, Jeff has actually gotten people to quiet down in the locker room. No, I don't think people think of Jeff Simmons as like, media-friendly guy, right? Famously. But that is something that used to happen that no longer happens. So
that is the most pressure Arden Key has put on anyone all season. Was on me right
don't
there.
Do that to Arden.
I will. If you're going to be that loud.
The only thing that we had to worry about in the locker room with Vrabel was Darren Bates' speaker. And that was only because he saw something on Twitter one time about people complaining about the speaker. So it got louder and louder for 2 weeks, and then it went away.
Yes, I take that back. I got to do right by Arden. He has 3 pressures this year.
Be nice to Arden.
He has 3 pressures. That was the 4th. Congratulations, Arden. Great year.
I looked at Jared Puffer, who works for Titans PR. He's responsible for booking players on the show. And obviously, we don't have Titans players on anymore because all they do is lose. And what are we going to talk to them about? But I looked at Puff yesterday. I was like, who we got tomorrow, Puff? He just laughed. Just laughed. Said, maybe next week. I said, okay. Anyway, Jeff Simmons on Kyler Murray. Hopefully he doesn't run circles around the Titans for their sake the way that he did in 2021. 615-737-1045 is the number. John Robinson is trolling the Titans. We'll tell you how next.
Oh, it's almost lunchtime. That means it's almost time for Hattie B's. Hey, it's Lucas. You know I would never lead you astray when it comes to food. So believe me when I tell you Hattie B's hot chicken is the best in the world. That's because it's family owned. It's because it is made like your grandma made it. And the sides, if you're like me, very important. Hattie B's believes that too. The pimento mac and cheese, to die for. But the southern greens, the baked beans, you just can't go wrong. And the best part is there's something for everyone. Yes, the fried chicken is crispy, it's juicy, it's perfect, hot or not, and everything in between. They also do grilled chicken better than anybody else. And the chopped southern salads are something you have to try out. I've just got 2 words for you: cornbread croutons. Let Hattie B's fuel your tailgate or watch party by going to HattieB.com. And if you download the Hattie B's app today, you get a free dessert just by doing so. Order for pickup or delivery and tack on that banana pudding for free. Start to build up those rewards at Hattie B's.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. John Robinson, you know you're down bad if John Robinson, who is as responsible for lighting this franchise's future on fire as, anybody but the owner, right? Owner is ultimately responsible because owner hires all of these people, and they can either do a good job or they can do a bad job. Lately, they've done a bad job.
I mean, a lot of things can be true, right? John Robinson started this track and got the Titans into a hole, unquestionably. Since John Robinson was let go, the Titans haven't necessarily done anything to dig out of that hole.
No, and he put him in a considerable hole. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a small thing to reverse at least 3 bad drafts. I mean, objectively, like start to finish bad drafts.
Yeah. Again, it's the Ron Burgundy effect. Like, I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed at that run of first-round picks.
So, I mean, full disclosure, I liked John Robinson. I liked Rand Carthon, too. Like, I've enjoyed working with these people, but that's just because I enjoyed working with them. I like Brian Callahan. I think I've said Brian Callahan should be fired like 4 or 5 times at this point.
Did you work with them, though?
John?
Yeah. Or did you cover him?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I always find that, like, that wording to me is always funny. Like,
well, yeah, you work with the team executives.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Well, I don't understand what
Like, you're not like colleagues. Like, yeah, you cover the football team.
Yeah, but you spent more time around John Robinson than I did my family at one point. You know, it's kind of like... Anyway. John Robinson on Instagram yesterday was posting to wish his wife a happy 46th birthday. By the way, happy birthday to Jamie Robinson. On his Instagram, says, happy 46th birthday to my best friend of 26 years. Love you, babe. And then afterwards, it says, and I guess it's still my fault. Hashtag we ass. If you know, you know. What are we doing? Yes, it's still your fault. Yes, John, it is still your fault. It's completely petty and just a glaring lack of self-awareness. It's also hilarious. It is one of the funniest things I've ever seen a fired executive of a football team do. Where do you see that? Where do you see a former GM anywhere taking pot shots at the franchise that has been paying him a decent amount of money for the last couple of years since they fired him in 22? In a birthday post to his wife, just sideswipe them. And you know Amy Adams Strunk felt that.
Is he off the books at this point?
He's got to be.
J-Rob.
Because he's got a non-disparagement agreement. I mean, maybe that skirts the line of the non-disparagement agreement. If you know, you know, because he doesn't technically say anything bad directly about the Titans. But hashtag we ass is crazy. I mean, he dug them out of a hole, had a successful franchise, 6 consecutive winning seasons under John, and John, Malarkey, and Vrabel all responsible for 6 consecutive winning seasons. Pieces and parts changed, but they had a good run. They had a more sustainable run than, I mean, anybody save the Patriots or the modern-day Chiefs, right? Like, their winning percentage during that time...
Yeah, 6 consecutive winning seasons.
...was as good as anybody.
Like
4 playoff appearances, right? I mean,
you can count on one hand the amount of teams that did that.
There's not a lot of teams that had that amount of success. And then it cratered, right? Because Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney and Isaiah Wilson and Traylon Burks and A.J. Brown and all these different things that took place. We don't need to relitigate it. But how much resentment is there from people who used to work for this organization towards the quote-unquote new Titans? Because that's what that reeks to me of. And 2, how down bad do you have to be for John Robinson to be comfortable taking pot shots at you? Because you know John knows he did about, like, John's not dumb. Like, he knows what happened. He did it.
Yeah, he knows that the Traylon Burks trade was an unmitigated, or the A.J. Brown trade was a disaster. Yeah,
catastrophic.
For sure.
And that was kind of the domino effect. I mean, so Isaiah got drafted before AJ got traded? AJ got traded in 22.
Yeah, Isaiah was the 21 draft.
Yeah, so Isaiah felt like the domino effect.
Oh, no. Sorry, the COVID draft. It was Isaiah and then Caleb Farley 2021.
Yeah.
And then they traded AJ and drafted Burks in 2022.
Of 22, and then Traylon was on the roster in 22. So, like, John is self-aware enough to know that, yeah, he did bad at the end. I couldn't stop laughing at that yesterday. I know he's wrong, and I know it's just insanely petty, but damn, that's funny. When have you ever seen an executive in sports do anything like that?
No, I mean, I can't say I'm keeping up with the social media of a bunch of fired, former NFL executives, but to do it in the same post as wishing your wife a happy birthday is where it just is out of nowhere. in the same post. Happy birthday, baby. Oh, hey, Titans.
Literally, love you, babe. And I guess it's still my fault. Hashtag we ass. 615-737-1045 is the number. It got aggregated in a lot of different places. Bleacher Report picked it up, at least. It's easy to pile on a franchise that is as sucky as this one has been, especially after they just got shut out in Houston 26-0. It seems not a lot of love is lost between people that worked for this organization and Amy Armstrong. Now, maybe most people don't have great feelings about their previous employer when you get fired. And surely John didn't think he was doing a good job at the time that he got fired, but they were 7-4? Like they had just lost the game to the Eagles.
I want to say they were 7-5.
7-5?
But they were at the top of the AFC South. The slide had started on that 7-game losing streak that ended that season. And the signs were there, right? The roster deteriorating, they were starting to lose games. Again, the timing of it was what made it so, such a blindside news story that week.
She was pissed because Philly fans were giving her double middle fingers and saying, thank you, you dumb bleep, for A.J. Brown.
Yeah. And on a random Tuesday in the middle of the season. Yeah, we were at Toy Field. It was that first Tuesday of December, like we do every year out at Nissan Stadium. So, yeah, the timing of it was what made it something where we perked it. But, like, if John Robinson...
Isn't he doing media interviews? I mean, he's doing regular
interviews. He's done some rounds. Right? Like, if that season had gone the way, which, it would have gone the same way, you would imagine, whether or not J-Rob got fired in December... I don't think, would we have batted an eye if he was fired on Black Monday or the Tuesday after the regular season?
Well, depending on how it ended, right?
Well, I'm saying all the same. Like, ends with a 7-game losing streak. You lose to the Jags. They win the division, and you're sitting there at 8-9 after starting 7-3.
Yeah, John probably still gets fired. And nothing really changes other than you create a problem for your organization. Now, what I will say to their credit is right now they are not creating more issues for Cam Ward because Callahan... It's really the only redeeming quality of keeping Brian Callahan in his current role is that you don't want Cam Ward to have to answer questions about getting a coach fired. And we're going to talk about this Cam Ward, what Brian Callahan said about Cam Ward's we asked comments later because I bristled at them yesterday when we carried the press conference and I got, even more irritated by the dialogue around it as the day wore on. So we will have time for that in the throughout the course of the show today. But I woke up still thinking about that post. It's like, what is John doing other than pointing and laughing like the rest of the world seems to be at the worst organization in professional football? Again, 615-737-1045 is the number. Diego Pavia, speaking of back at it, Pavia's back at it. We will read you a quote from the Vanderbilt quarterback next.
11 o'clock, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Nashville Soccer Club are U.S. Open Cup champions, lifting the first trophy in club history with a 2-1 win at Austin FC on Wednesday. Hani Mukhtar with the opening goal in the 17th minute. Sam Surridge scoring the game winner with a penalty kick in the 60th minute. There will be a celebration at Geodis Park Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m., but NSC does have 2 games left in the MLS regular season. They'll jump back in on Saturday at Montreal. Titans' first injury report of the week came out on Wednesday. Right tackle J.C. Latham still not practicing with the hip injury. Calvin Ridley also did not practice with a knee/elbow. Running back Tyjae Spears did return as a limited participant. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTM.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back to the show. Second hour is underway. Nate Washington will join us in the third hour today. Congratulations to Nashville SC. That's the local sports story of the day. A U.S. Open Cup victory last night over Austin FC. But we have tremendous opportunity ahead for another local team. Vanderbilt goes to Tuscaloosa. Vanderbilt with the college football upset of the century last year on West End against Kalen DeBoer in his first year as the Alabama head coach, and you know that the Crimson Tide is going to be looking for revenge, but Pavia does not give a damn, it would seem. It's going to be an interesting point. It's a big moment for the program either way. Like, obviously, Vanderbilt can't go down there and get their doors blown off. What'd you say the line was, 10.5?
Last I checked, yeah.
So let's just assume it's ballpark 10.5 for Vandy going to Tuscaloosa, which feels about right, given the talent disparity that they do have. It's no question that Alabama looks like a top tier, I mean, from a talent composite standpoint, is a top tier SEC program, and Vanderbilt is doing well to build themselves up that way, but they're not there yet. So, when Alabama hosts Vandy this weekend, Diego Pavia is not dissuaded by any level of revenge, and he's keeping the same energy the whole way through. The thing that I can say about Diego Pavia that I enjoy most about him beyond his play is that he is authentic to his core. But here's the quote. I don't know what they're doing, talking about Alabama. I just focus on us. This was an interview with Chris Lowe of On3 Sports. I don't know what they're doing. I just focus on us. But I know we've got to bring it, that's for sure. The crowd, I think, it's going to be a big factor in the game. But we just got to play within the white lines. If we do that, if we play our game, it won't be close. I love him. I've said that plenty. I feel like America enjoys Diego Pavia almost as much as I do. Because, I mean, he manifests it, and so far, he's capitalized on it. Now, the way that he plays, you're concerned about the longevity of Diego Pavia throughout the course of a 12-game college football regular season. But if we play our game, it won't be close. Bulletin board material hasn't really mattered this year, whether it's Castellanos, the Florida State quarterback.
I was going to say,
chirping Alabama.
He worked out for him.
Yeah, so I guess, it shouldn't be that big a deal. Like, yeah, people are competitive, and Diego Pavia is ultra competitive.
It's not going to raise the intensity for Alabama, right? They lost to Vanderbilt last year. Like, they remember that game. Simpson.
Their wounded pride is not going to be, even more wounded just because, did you see what he said about us?
Right, exactly. That's not going to give Caden Proctor that one extra effort on a second down run because Pavia said it won't be close if we play our game.
Make it a penalty or something, but I don't know.
So, yeah, man, do your thing. If that is what gives you an edge, like that sort of mindset and mentality, even if Vanderbilt goes down to Tuscaloosa and they end up losing by 2 or 3 scores, people are going to throw this quote back at Diego Pavia, right? But for me, it's like I would change nothing about it because that's what makes Diego Pavia, and what has made Vanderbilt this resurgent program, or not even resurgent, surgent. Is that a word? I texted my buddy, I don't want to I don't want to out him here, but my buddy John Freeman is the play-by-play voice of UVA.
I don't want to do it, but I'll do it anyway. That sounds like what I used to do. I don't want to betray a confidence here, but
the train's off the tracks. The train's off the tracks. But obviously UVA had that crazy upset over FSU. John had a phenomenal call on the UVA radio network. And I texted him. I was like, dude, that was amazing. Congratulations. And he says, I would say we're back, but we were never here. So we're here. That's what it feels like with Vanderbilt, right? They're here. And it's because of this moxie from Diego Pavia. So even if they go down and lose to Alabama, it's so easy to throw this back in his face. But it still just makes him who he is, which is such a huge reason why Vanderbilt is where they are.
Yeah, I mean, they are here because in part of Diego Pavia and his personality. And he's, in the same way that, like, the reason I got so pissed off about Brian Callahan talking about Cam Ward's comments the way that he did yesterday is because I want my team to embody, if I'm a fan of any team, I want my team to embody Diego Pavia energy, Cam Ward energy. I don't want it to be, I know Brian Callahan wasn't trying to be dismissive of it, but it was almost patronizing the way that he talked about guys grow up, or how you need to grow up through the process. Whatever the exact quote was, we'll play it for you later. I don't like that. Don't tamp that down. I want that fire. I want that grit. I want that energy. I want that anger. I want it to permeate through every level of my organization, not this Mickey Mouse nonsense that has been the Tennessee Titans ethos, whatever the hell that means, for the last year and a half of their existence, or who Vanderbilt has always been, which is a bit of the butt of a joke. Diego Pavia has made them not a joke. Diego Pavia and the rest of them, right? They're executing at a high level, but they're playing with belief. They believe in Diego Pavia. They believe in Clark Lee. Buy-in matters. It's how you get the most out of rosters that maybe don't have the most talent in the world. Vanderbilt doesn't have the most talent in the world. By any stretch of the imagination, they're 5-0. How many times has Vanderbilt started 5-0? I wonder. I'm sure there's a number about it. It's probably like since the 1920s or something outrageous.
I actually haven't seen that floated out there. So I love the buzz around this game. Like, it's awesome. Biggest game in Vanderbilt modern football history, easily. But we were talking about it. The Peter Burns tweet about this game.
You mentioned it in passing to me. I haven't heard the exact tweet.
So Peter Burns of SEC Network put this out there about Vanderbilt, Alabama. He said, y'all need to stop talking about it, or stop talking about if Vanderbilt can beat Alabama, and ask the question, can Alabama beat Vanderbilt? The onus is on the Tide, not the Doors this week. And I get where Peter's going. And he followed it up. He replied to his own tweet and said, for the record, I still think Bama wins. But this is a lot different than the 2017 We Want Bama game, thinking back to the Vandy defensive lineman saying, Alabama, you're next, and then getting destroyed 59-0. He said, Vandy reminds me of an older mid-major in college hoops. Roster is made of almost 40% graduates and seniors gunning for the blue blood. So he says Bama's wide receivers will be too much. 27-17 was his prediction. So I'm with him that the pressure is more on Alabama than Vanderbilt. That'll be the case anytime Alabama and Vanderbilt play in the history of forever.
Yes.
When they play each other on a football field. But I think it's a little far to be saying we need to ask the question, can Bama beat Vanderbilt? Not like, well, no, we know Alabama can beat Vanderbilt, that they can, that they are the more talented team, right? That they are more of a championship contending team. But Vanderbilt gave us a proof of concept that they can also beat Alabama. I don't think it means the question is totally flipped around, that now suddenly, no, it's not about, we know Vandy can beat Alabama, but is Alabama capable of beating Vanderbilt? Of course they are.
As someone who has, on occasion, gotten ahead of themselves on social media, I see what happened to Peter Burns there. But understand what the point he's trying to get across, right? Like, the point, as you've just articulated, is a sound one. Okay, Vandy house money. Like, Vandy was house money last year. Vandy house money this year. If they end up 5-1, nobody would have picked Vanderbilt to beat Alabama no matter the circumstance this year. Nobody in their right mind, other than Diego Pavia and Clark Lee and everybody in that locker room, because they believe they can do it. And belief can get you to a certain point, absolutely.
Now take the logos away, right? Vandy's a top 10 team.
Yes.
Right? But also, it's not that simple. Like, you wish it was, but to your point, you mentioned the 247 Sports talent composite, right? That gauges the talent profile of every team based on recruiting classes and transfer portal. And no, it doesn't mean everything, but it does mean a lot. And Alabama, according to 247 Sports, is on paper the second most talented team in the country. Vanderbilt is the 55th most talented team in the country. Again, it didn't matter for that Florida State game in week 1. FSU is the number 19 team in the talent composite. For reference, by the way, where do you think Tennessee ranks?
I don't know. Where?
16th.
Okay.
16th. They're up a couple. They were 17th, so up one spot from where they ranked last year in this. But Alabama unquestionably is the more talented team with more NFL draft prospects, right? Vanderbilt, though, with the key difference, they're not bereft of talent. Eli Stowers might be the first tight end taken in the draft this year.
I think that's the expectation.
Right?
Now.
I think so at this point.
I mean, there's been, as far as I know, there's not a tight end in college football that's emerged that's better than Eli Stowers as a draft prospect.
Like, they've got game-breaking players, too. And if any of the issues we saw creep up against Florida State for Alabama, then the game's going to be there for the taking.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to chime in. Tommy is in Nashville.
Thanks, but I'm a ball for life, and I'm not a Vandy hater. And I grew up in the same town as Ty Simpson, and I just think that he's still really underrated. I think he's going to get better every game. And I just think this weekend he's just going to be too much for Vanderbilt, even though, Pavia can do miracles sometimes. But I just think Ty is going to get better and better every game. And we saw what he did against Georgia. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Tommy. Cosell brought up Ty Simpson on the podcast today. He goes, they're basically that the Alabama quarterback is playing as well as any quarterback in the sport right now.
He's been excellent.
So we're not talking. You are correct. It's crazy that we're not talking enough about the Alabama quarterback and that the Vanderbilt quarterback is getting more attention. But Ty Simpson doesn't give quotes like Pavia does.
Yeah, he and Gunnar Stockton, along with Jackson Arnold, are the only starters in the SEC without an interception. And he greatly outperformed Gunnar Stockton in that game in Athens. And
Jackson Arnold just runs a lot.
He just gets sacked a million times and runs a lot. Yeah, it is insane that he has not thrown an interception. A credit to him. But yeah, Ty Simpson, 11 touchdowns to 0 picks, 69.3% completion percentage, over 1,100 yards. Just calm, cool, and collected, man. And he's done the thing that we don't see. A 5-star entering a program. Didn't get the first crack at the job as a freshman. Didn't even win the job as a sophomore. And then again. And now here he is. And he's the starting quarterback for Alabama, like 4 years into his college football career. Just don't see it that often. And he's a coach's son. I don't know how much that has to do with it, right? The son of Jason Simpson, the UT Martin head coach. But, yeah, he's been phenomenal.
Ian is in Memphis.
Hey, thanks, guys. I just wanted to kind of call back to John Robinson and what he had to say. And there's really no doubt in my mind that he has corrupted the soul of the Titans organization. But that's okay. That's okay, because we have a winning team in Nashville. We have a winning team in Nashville, and that's the Nashville SC. I'm so proud of them for bringing home the U.S. Open trophy and bringing some glory to the state of Tennessee. I mean, we got dogs all over the place. Joe Willis, dog. Brian Schwenke, dog. Sam Surridge, dog. Andy Mukhtar, dog. Eddie Tagset, dog. Andy Nahar, dog. So thank you, Nashville SC, for bringing some glory.
Well, Ian, real quick, what about Walker Zimmerman? Is he a dog?
Walker Zimmerman, dog. Injured dog, but he's a dog nonetheless.
Well, I've just been informed that Walker Zimmerman is going to join us coming up next.
Oh, how about that? Thank you for the call, Ian. We will talk to Walker Zimmerman and be able to celebrate a winning team in Nashville. God knows we need one. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Nashville SC is a winner of the U.S. Open Cup last night. The victory, 2-1 over Austin FC, and we're very happy to be joined by Walker Zimmerman right now. Walker, just first and foremost, congratulations to you, to your team, to everybody with the organization. Got to be a really, really cool feeling to be able to experience that. I suppose it's probably, do you like black out in the moment when you guys finally get the win, or are you just trying to soak in that moment as much as humanly possible? Can you take us through the emotions?
Yeah, I think for me, I was just trying to soak it all in. I mean, it's been a long journey for some of us who've been around with the club the whole time, 6 seasons, and after losing a final a couple years ago, to have another chance and bring one home felt great. So just soaking it in and enjoying every moment of it.
The club put out on social media Hani's pregame talk, and it was, it's inspiring to see the two of you in particular because of the time that you spent with the club, because of how much that means to the city and to the fan base as you guys have grown. That just the relationship that the two of you have for people who may not get to see it as often. How would you describe it?
No, it's been beautiful. It's been a lot of growth. Obviously, we've been through so many ups and downs together, having been here, and getting the chance to lead this group of guys is easy because we have a bunch of people who work really hard. They lay their egos down when they walk into the door every single day, and that's what it takes to have a good team and have a winning culture. So the rest of the group makes it really easy for guys like Hani and myself to lead. And, it's an honor to represent them as a captain and captains of the team. So, it's been great.
It was really cool to see the two of you with one handle of the trophy each last night, raise it in the air. Walker Zimmerman here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
And to keep it on that point, Walker, just going through these last 5 to 6 years in the different phases of the club, what's really unique is the way you guys have obviously added on the likes of Sam Surridge, right, and Jason Palacios and Eddie Taxeth and all of these guys that came this offseason a couple years ago that have contributed to this run, but also the spine of that starting 11 that stepped on the field against Atlanta United in front of 60,000 people at Nissan Stadium February 2020. You, Hani, Dan Lovitz, right? The amount of guys that were on that field that night, that were on the field last night, that's a pretty unique thing with the difference in play styles that you guys have gone through and the difference in coaches. What's been the key for you to maintain that foundation throughout, despite all the moving parts and pieces around you throughout the last 5-6 years?
I think it's just a testament to the character of those guys that you mentioned, and Joe Willis, Alex Mule were probably the other two guys who've been there for a long time or since the beginning. Just the professionalism that they come in with every day, taking care of their bodies, coming in with good attitudes, willing to work hard and show other players what it means to be a Nashville SC player. And that's what makes me the happiest is, seeing those guys who've been through it since the beginning get to have this moment and bring it home. So, like you said, proud of everyone, but especially those guys who've been there from the start.
So, great game last night, great environment out there. McConaughey's doing his thing pregame. Nashville fans are showing up in droves as well. 1-1 at the break. Obviously, Sam with the go-ahead goal, the penalty kick early-ish in the second half. And then things get chaotic, right, as they do with the one-goal game and a final Walker at the end. You're on the field after coming off the bench. Sam Surridge gets his second yellow, gets the red card, and you guys go down to 10 men for the last 30 or so seconds. Can you take us through those final moments and just a little bit of the chaos for you guys trying to stay organized when Sam got that red card, but you knew you were on the cusp just seconds away from winning a trophy as long as you just kind of held in for the last few chaotic moments?
It was pretty funny seeing him with the red. Like, for a split second, your thoughts like, oh, man, well, we definitely cannot go into extra time here down a man, so we got to make sure we close it out now. But, we knew that there was only, 1 or 2 more kicks of the ball left. So we felt pretty confident that one more clearance would get it done, and we were able to get that stop, and then it was all, pandemonium from there.
So how does it work for you guys now? Because you get to celebrate that last night, but it's a quick turnaround. At the same time, as you celebrate winning your first trophy as a club, You're pushing for a top 4 spot in the Eastern Conference. Still 2 games to go. And you're headed north of the border on Saturday to Montreal. Long road trip. What do the next couple of days look like for Nashville Soccer Club right off the heels of an emotional Open Cup victory?
No doubt it's a quick turnaround for us. You're catching me on my drive into the training grounds right now. I know today will be different for everyone, just kind of, more of a recovery and regen and see where everyone's at following the game. Then we'll have training tomorrow and leave for Montreal. And, we are looking forward to Sunday, getting back, celebrating with our fans at Geodis. But first, we know that there are those important points out there for the playoff race. So Montreal will be a big test, a big game for us. So we got to do our best to kind of put this to bed for now, focus on Saturday, and then we can celebrate again on Sunday.
Well, Walker, thank you so much for taking the time, and congratulations again to you and the entire organization. The city's incredibly proud to have a winner, and looking forward to seeing how you guys finish out MLS play strong.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Walker.
Zimmerman of Nashville SC. Lucas is he's having a hard time over here, Robert.
Oh, what's that with?
Well, probably the tacos that he was shoveling down his face before getting ready to interview Walker Zimmerman.
They're speaking to me. I'm hearing
What
voices.
do you have in that bag? Is that a bag?
It's a bag of coleslaw.
I was just going to ask you, why is there a bag full of coleslaw
Literally
in
a
here?
Ziploc bag of coleslaw. I'm going to show the F&M Bank chat. So Robert and I ordered these tacos from a taco truck, I presume.
I have no idea. It literally was just like so-and-so restaurant and so-and-so. Yes.
Yep. And they came on this styrofoam plate, and the coleslaw came in literally a
bag of coleslaw.
Sandwich bag.
Don't eat all of that, by the way. It's really good.
Oh, they're awesome. The pupusa is fantastic.
Oh, it was. Did I not just tell you guys like a week ago that I had been craving them? Because my dad used to have guys that worked for him, and their wives would make them, and he'd bring like huge trays of them.
Oh, it was fantastic.
That was exceptional.
Yeah.
No, it's not because he's choking down tacos while trying to interview Nashville SC's defender. It's not because he wore a shirt today that is an optical illusion on the live stream for those of you watching on Zone TV.
It's an NSC polo.
It's because Nashville SC did not have a local broadcast of the U.S. Open Cup win last night, and Lucas had FOMO. So I wanted you to have the opportunity to do what your call would have been. We can do crowd noise for you.
Oh, no, we're not going to do that.
You sure?
No, we won't be doing that.
Are you sure?
But what folks
We'd be
can
happy
do.
to. Now
I'll tell you what.
Let's keep him hostage.
I'll tell you what.
Don't let him defer. Don't let him try to shrug this off.
You tune in 1 p.m. pregame, 1:30 kickoff on Saturday on 104.5 The Zone. You will hear me on the call of Nashville SC at Montreal. But no, we did not do the U.S.
Robert,
Open
give
Cup.
me your best McConaughey. Come on. Let's bully him into doing this.
I do want to hear your best
right.
McConaughey.
I don't know. What does McConaughey sound like?
Verde means go. I don't know.
It's a wheezy, it's a woozy, it's a wazzy.
Yeah.
It's a figment of your imagination.
I do hate it for you. I wish you would have been able to do the broadcast for that last night. That was really cool.
No, I enjoyed watching. I enjoyed taking it in like any other Nashville SC fan. I was a fan last night, and that was really cool. As somebody that, it didn't feel possible for there to be professional soccer in Nashville. There was a time where it didn't feel possible for there to be an MLS team in the South. And then Atlanta got one, right? Orlando got one even before that. And Nashville, and then Miami, and Charlotte, and now they're just popping up all over the place. And so unfathomable, number one, to think that I would, get the chance to do these games. But number two, and more importantly, that this club would be lifting a trophy just 6 years into its tenure as a Major League Soccer organization. So very cool to take that in yesterday, and look forward to being back at it for MLS regular season play on Saturday.
So we will talk more about Nashville SC as it's warranted, but we're very happy for them, as we've mentioned, and congratulations to everybody involved with the club as well. Pivot to some college football discussion before we get into some Titans stuff. Nate Washington will join us in about an hour from now. We'll get his thoughts on everything that's going on. I have some questions for him specifically about the offense. Cosell said something just offhand today about the offense not really helping things. And he mentioned this last year with Levis, and we kind of dismissed. I wouldn't say we dismissed. I don't dismiss anything that Greg says because Greg's infinitely smarter about football than me. But when he brought that up with Levis, I was just kind of like, yeah, but Will's kind of bad at this. So I don't know how much of this is self-inflicted wounds versus the offense is not really helping create opportunities. But he said it again today on the podcast, and I was looking at the kind of the metrics that we're able to access with separation and how frequently wide receivers are able to generate separation on their own versus what the offense is creating for them. And I do think Greg has a point there. So I want to get Nate Washington's perspective on whether or not Brian Callahan's offense, whether Bo Hardigree is calling it or Brian Callahan's calling it, is actually helping these wide receivers create the necessary separation or scheme them open the way that they need to, as opposed to just asking them to win. But we have SEC matchups that are worth talking about beyond just Vanderbilt and Alabama, though that is the headline here locally this weekend. What is the best SEC matchup not named Vandy, Alabama, in your opinion?
Texas at Florida.
Yes.
In a game that preseason was thought to be a pretty influential college football playoff deciding sort of matchup. Doesn't seem to be that. Although I suppose it kind of is that for
Loser gets fired.
Texas.
No, Sark's not getting fired.
No, not quite. Not quite. But vibes haven't been great down in Austin. They have not been world beaters on offense.
We never made fun of Arch Manning the way that he should have been made fun of for standing over that poor, was it Sam Houston State player?
Oh, I missed this.
Flexing on him in the end zone. Robert, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he ran for a touchdown and then walked over. I thought that was going to be a penalty. I thought those were penalties now.
They were up big in this game, and Arch is flexing over this poor little Sam Houston State
tough.
player.
Big dog, this kid.
Taking out some frustrations on Sam Houston State.
It was really lame.
Oh, man.
And not the pile-on. Arch Manning is dealing with enough, but...
Billy Napier, talking about DJ Lagway this week, says he's got a look in his eye. DJ Lagway is espousing some confidence in this Florida offense that has just been immobile this season, saying that once it gets figured out, once we start clicking, it's going to be hard to stop. I'm paraphrasing there from the sophomore quarterback at Florida. It is in Gainesville, right? So the Swamp, we'll see if it's rocking at a 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. You can watch this game on ESPN. But this is a fascinating test for Arch Manning. The matchup that will be Arch, Sark, and the Texas offense coming off of a bye week after a very slow and frustrating start to the season against a Florida defense that is elite. It's an elite defense, not just in the SEC, but across the country. I mean, the Titans threw 3 quarters against the Texans with an offense that couldn't move the ball and a defense that just kept keeping them in the game. That's what it's been for Florida this season. So what that looks like against a Texas team that hasn't quite been tested since week 1 against Ohio State, yet still hasn't looked terribly impressive since week 1 against Ohio State, is going to be very interesting to see if the bye week was beneficial for Arch Manning, if it is indeed a slow start to the season, a slump that he's breaking out of, because, again, it's things that are controllable for Arch Manning, right? It's missing wide open guys. It's missing checkdowns. It's things that make you wonder, is he okay? Is everything good? Is he overwhelmed by the pressure, by the situation? Because it's not an issue of talent with Arch Manning. The things that he's not being able to do are the things that make you just scratch your head from a quarterback as talented as he is. So that's going to be fascinating. And then Mississippi State at A&M. I want to see how Mississippi State bounces back from an impressive performance against Tennessee.
More than a 2-touchdown underdog on the road.
Yeah, 14.5-point favorites are Texas A&M, who have been really impressive. They have. So I wonder if Mississippi State can go on the road and continue to prove that this is not the team that rolled out there in year 1 of Jeff Lebby last year. But it's really those two, and then you've got a Georgia team taking on just a lifeless Kentucky squad.
Get right opportunity.
Yeah.
20.5-point favorites at home are the Bulldogs against the Wildcats. And then Oklahoma is hosting Kent State for a cupcake game in which they are favored by 45. What's been the biggest point spread of the college football season?
I don't know.
45.5 is just crazy. But it should be an interesting game between Florida and Texas.
How long does Billy Napier make it? If you had to, if we had to place it, let's see. I'm pulling up Florida's schedule.
Okay, so these are two different questions, right? Because it's I run this through the prism of Brian Callahan. How long should Brian Callahan get? The answer is he should have been fired already. How long will Brian Callahan get is an entirely different question because there are people who are, it's more complicated than just fire the coach, right? You've got coach's dad. You've got play calling situation. I know Bo Hardigree is currently calling the plays, but how much of that it gets disrupted if you fire the coach? You've got people who don't want to answer questions about firing the coach. It's not the same in college, but if you looked at this after they lost and looked, I mean, at least as an offense, lifeless against Miami, defense is so much, they deserve so much better than they're getting from the other side of the ball. Home for Texas, at A&M, home Mississippi State, home Georgia. They don't have a game that they they're not going to be favored against Mississippi State on the road. They shouldn't be, unless they do the thing.
Well, they'll host Mississippi State.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. They are home for Mississippi State. I still don't think they should be favored.
Yeah. So Florida, who by the way has averaged 9 points in their last 3 games, 16 against USF, 10 against LSU, 7 against Florida. Hosting Texas, going to A&M, hosting Mississippi State, hosting Georgia, going to Kentucky, and then closing out the season at Ole Miss, and then 2 home games, Tennessee and Florida State, to round it out. This has a chance to spiral, or it has a chance to improve the way it did last year. Like, we saw that proof of concept last year. Billy Napier was dead man walking. He was done. There was no way he was going to survive the season. And then what they do, they figured out a way to turn it around. They beat LSU. They beat Texas A&M. They end up in a bowl game with a winning record with promise for the upcoming season. Problem is, the ace in the hole that he had in the back pocket was DJ Lagway to put in for Graham Mertz. DJ Lagway can still be that in the back pocket of Billy Napier if the offense does improve. It is kind of funny thinking about a scenario where Florida just clicks and turns it around, and everybody's just confused as hell at the end of the year.
Oh, is it funny to you with play a game at the Swamp late in the year? Wouldn't that be funny to you?
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe that wouldn't be so funny.
the way that the smile just disappeared from his face.
Well, let me take off the orange hat, put on the neutral hat. Like, watching from afar.
It's like when that guy called in saying he was agreeing with me, but he was actually agreeing with Lucas, and then just slowly the smile faded from my face.
Yeah. Watching from afar, Florida's been so dreadful to start the season, but we saw them turn this around last year. And yes, this feels different because they've been terrible with DJ Lagway. But if they figure out some stuff on offense, which there's a lot to figure out, this feels so unlikely. I'm just, for curiosity's sake, I would love to know what that would look like for Scott Strickland and for the athletic department and for the fan base if, say, Florida upset Texas. If Florida knocks off Texas, if Arch Manning continues to struggle and Florida's offense has a pulse in this game, will it be more about Billy Napier once again digging his team out of an early season hole? Or will the discussion be more about Texas and Arch Manning? And, yep, confirmed, they are not what we thought they were going to be this season. Or will it be a little bit of both? And I guess the context of the game would matter there. But that is a sneaky, interesting game this weekend in an SEC weekend where a lot of teams are off.
What a mess the SEC is. Like a fun mess the SEC is, other than, like you mentioned, it's just kind of Kentucky languishing at the bottom of all of this, and maybe Florida ends up down there too eventually. But
no, Kentucky's so bad. They're so bad.
It's in such a bad spot.
I can't believe Sam Pittman got fired before Mark Stoops.
Oh, I don't know. That Notre Dame game was ugly.
It was.
Wait. Before you get out of here, you asked a question. What is the largest point spread this year in college football? It is a tie, at least opening. It is a tie from week 1 where Illinois opened up against, I believe it was Western Illinois? Whatever. Come on, ChatGPT, get back where I was going. Yes, Western Illinois. That started at a 45.5 point spread. Bettors pushed it up to 46.5. So that is the highest point spread. But an opening line, it is a tie with Oklahoma and Kent State, 45.5.
Kent State, hapless. Tennessee saw them last year. Collect that check.
Their coach would decline the running clock opportunity in the second half.
Yeah.
Poor choice. Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano of ESPN had some additional thoughts on the Titans coaching situation. We will tell you what they wrote here in just a second. Unlike the changing leaves of fall, your money does not grow on trees. Give Trajan Wealth a call today to ensure that you're making the right financial moves for your future. Don't fumble your retirement. Make sure that you are in position to succeed, because if you're interested in wealth management that's designed to protect, maintain, and expand your financial portfolio, Trajan Wealth is here to help. They understand the importance of tactical investments and tailored insights for growth in line with your risk tolerance. Call Trajan Wealth today to learn more about these strategies, and their fiduciary advisors will put you on the path to success. 2 locations here in Middle Tennessee, Brentwood and Franklin. You can call them locally, 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Any one of their Middle Tennessee locations now open to you. You can mobile order, or if you want to carry out. I know the Midtown location always has a line for the tourists because everybody wants the hot chicken, not just the good people of Middle Tennessee. If you want to skip those tourists in a line, you download the app. You order carryout, you go pick it up, you can sit in the restaurant, you can take it home with you, as you like. HattieB.com for more information. All right, so we are a month into the NFL season. The Titans don't have a win. There is a piece on ESPN.com, and Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano do these like regular notebook-type check-in things for ESPN, and the Titans are at the top of the board here with the prompt of what are you hearing on the Titans' 0-4 start and potential changes they could make now or in the offseason. So there is not a ton of new information here other than the perspective of the coaching staff, because the coaching staff has said publicly what? Brian Callahan has said that he hasn't necessarily been given assurances about his job, but that he's felt supported. He has responded to questions from me and other reporters at these press conferences that he doesn't think about, how many more opportunities is he going to get at this thing, because that's not the way that you can think about it, and that's correct. But apparently somebody, whether it's on the coaching staff or representatives of the coaching staff, are expressing to Jeremy Fowler, quote, moderate concern among the coaching staff that the front office and ownership might not be as patient as they originally believed, which could lead to a change sooner rather than later. The proverbial, quote, vibes simply are not good right now. I would say, duh. The front office entered the season with optimism about head coach Brian Callahan, who was a hot name on the coaching circuit in 2024. And though it wouldn't set a win-loss goal in regard to his tenure, Titans brass wanted to see a team that's improving. The Tennessee Titans have not improved. They have regressed. Maybe Cam Ward has not regressed, but the Titans are a worse team.
He and Fowler got into a back and forth on this.
Graziano.
Right, Graziano
I'm reading
Jeremy
Fowler's
Fowler.
portion of it right now.
Okay, yeah, Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano, they're bouncing back and forth on all of these topics.
Yeah.
And towards the end, Fowler says, President of Football Ops, Chad Brinker, and GM Mike Borgonzi come from well-established, methodical personnel trees, the Packers and Chiefs, respectively, as we know, that should lead to build through the draft patience, which I once thought would help Callahan's case. Now I'm not so sure. As you mentioned, game management issues in multiple games have not helped his cause. That's such a priority for teams now. And then Graziano points out how Borgonzi and Brinker were not in their current roles when the organization hired Callahan.
Oh, don't let Chad Brinker off the hook for Brian Callahan.
And then he says in parentheses, maybe Brinker was, but he didn't have as much a clearly delineated power role at the time.
Clearly.
And he says it's never a comfortable feeling working for people who didn't hire you. And your point about the offensive line is a critical one, Graziano says, because the offensive line coach is Callahan's father, Bill, who is considered one of the best to ever do the job. Graziano says, I believe Bill would not stick around if Brian got fired. So you're talking about major change in critical areas. I might look foolish in a couple of weeks or days, who knows? But if I'm making a prediction, I lean towards the Titans giving Callahan the rest of the year before making a decision.
If they weren't going to fire him after getting shut out in Houston, I think there's a reasonable expectation that they're going to just, lame duck their way through this thing and then fire him at the end of the season. And again, there is some, it's small, benefit to not burdening your team further with the in-season distraction of firing a coach. Now, I still think that because they have gotten worse and because you can directly attribute some of their issues to the head coach and that they are not improved in any area other than John Fossil's special teams unit, clearly, at least in game, they are not improved in any area other than John Fossil's special teams unit. Maybe there are things throughout the course of the week that we don't have access to that they are improved in, but
yeah, no, there's nothing we are tangibly seeing. Yeah, you can't.
Results on the field.
You can't say anything tangibly that they are significantly better at apart from special teams.
But the thing listen, Jeremy Fowler, Dan Graziano are infinitely better reporters than I ever dreamed about being when I remotely cared about being a reporter as opposed to a talk show host now. But Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, Rand Carthon, there's no mention of the team president or the ownership group that hired Brian Callahan. He's working for the people that hired him. They've just changed a few of the pieces and parts around him. Now, there is an important note here that Brian Callahan answers to Mike Borgonzi, and Mike Borgonzi did not hire Brian Callahan. That was clearly delineated to us for the first time in God knows how many years about who answers to whom and who has roster control where. And yes, it's a collaborative, God help me, that word, collaborative effort, but there are steps to this. But the people that hired Brian Callahan are still the people that hired Brian Callahan. If Amy does, it's not Chad Brinker or Mike Borgonzi's decision if the coach got to go. It's the owner's decision. So if she decides on a wild hair that, enough after the Patriots game, or they
well, that's the thing. Like,
come back from this road trip 0-6.
Yeah, like where are the touch points where that could happen? Obviously, the Patriots game is looming. Houston was one, and they are going to play Houston again near the end of the season. But the Patriots game is the next one up. And the Patriots took a big leap last week. They've been competitive all season, and they hung 40-plus points.
If they push
against
the
Panthers
Bills,
last week.
if they're, I wonder what's the line between the Patriots and the Bills. It's in Buffalo. It's a night game. Obviously, Buffalo is going to be favored. They're the best offense in the sport. I don't think anybody would outright.
What do you think it is?
Pick 6.5.
7.5.
7.5. That
On
feels
Sunday
right.
Night Football.
That feels right. Vidal Harris says, what happens if you beat Vrabel? I mean, he still gets fired at the end of the year in all likelihood. Like, I don't think there's going to be a bunch of people in Patriots jerseys at this game, no matter whether they win a game against the Cardinals, the Raiders, or both. Like, the fans are not going to be at Nissan Stadium. And the fans that are going to be there probably wishing that Mike Vrabel was still their coach. Like, this thing is... Nobody's going to be there to witness it if they do it. That's the problem with the way that they've pooped themselves out of the gate. They've killed any momentum in that direction. I don't know what they are going to do other than it feels like they're delaying the inevitable. And as is their right. Maybe they spend plenty of time putting together the best possible candidates for the job. It's going to be a job that people want. Mike Borgonzi is respected. He has connections. There are two people on the Chiefs right now who could end up being head coaches again. Matt Nagy could be a head coach again. He was a coach of the year. He got 12 wins out of Mitch Trubisky. Insane. Bears had a good roster beyond the quarterback at the time, but Matt Nagy has done it at least with some relative level of success, and then it petered out, and Matt Nagy was fired. Steve Spagnuolo, I don't know if he's going to want to get back into the head coaching game or not. He's done it unsuccessfully, but he is an excellent defensive coordinator. He's well respected. Mike Borgonzi knows him. Mike McCarthy and Chad Brinker obviously have connections there. Mike McCarthy's name has been out there before.
Again, where is the benefit of letting a coach go this early in the season, right? Or just generally? If you're going to let a coach go during the season,
I'm tired. I don't want to see Cam Ward, who is a fighter, get worn down by how crappy this stuff is.
But like you are speaking as though there is this assumption that the team will dramatically improve because they fire the head coach.
Oh, I saw a tweet to this effect about that, and I'll go. Yeah. Continue.
When you're looking for the benefits or reasons for the pros versus the cons of letting a coach go during the season. For me, it's often been, in terms of precedent that we've seen across the NFL, because the situation in the building is just toxic. Players don't want to play for him. Coaches don't want to work for him. And yes, the Titans are worn down. They're defeated.
He's a nice man.
You don't get that sense.
People don't hate him.
Yeah.
He's not Wisenhunt.
This isn't Wisenhunt. This isn't Josh McDaniels. This isn't Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh, damn. There was a really good tweet that I saw the other day, and I regret not sending it to the group because it was basically looking at the results of coaches who had been fired in season and saying, well, no, there's not. There is tangible improvement. More teams improved after firing a coach in season than either regressed or stayed the same.
Okay, but then you're taking other situations and applying it to this one.
I know I'm just...
And then B, the other benefit is getting a jump, right? Getting a jump on the coaching carousel. And it's October 2nd. Like, that's not a factor at this point.
Well, I mean, you can talk to representation. You can, put together search firms. You can do all the legwork. It just sucks that you have to do it in October because your football season's already over. I'm not going to be able to find this tweet, but there is a tweet out there citing the example specifically of the improvement that there have been. And the Titans were a team that did improve when Ken Wisenhunt was fired. Mike Mularkey took over. But again, Wisenhunt was toxic. I don't think Callahan's toxic. I just think he's bad at this. They don't get better, and there's no reason to think that they would get better. other than the fact that if it does start to break players down, because that's we're on the tipping point, right? Cam Ward is in danger of regression. Cosell has pointed out, he is regressing. His footwork is breaking down. He is pressing. If you find somebody who's going to put, now, does Brian Callahan's ability to improve Cam Ward get better when J.C. Latham's back in the lineup? Yeah, probably, because Oli Udoh and John Ojukwu are bad at this. Blake Hance is bad at this, right? You're dealing with backup offensive linemen already at the start of the season. There are arguments, I think, on both sides. I do understand the argument of, well, what does it actually help this year? This year is already lost, it feels, although it's only 4 games in. Theoretically, they could do the unthinkable and turn it around, and Brian Callahan could finally cash in on all these things he's been talking about, specific to, well, it's going to feel so much better when you finally turn that corner. And he was on the Bengals team that did turn that corner. But they don't have Joe Burrow. They have Cam Ward, who's fighting for his life out there, his professional life. Anyway. But the fact that Cam Ward is getting worse here and is on the verge of getting further entrenched in bad habits because they don't have the requisite things to support him, that's not going to help Brian Callahan. Amy's a wild card in all this, right? We have no idea. I talk about the way that she speaks in statements. It's not like she's putting together those statements without help. I'm sure Bert Nihill is vetting those statements. Like, it's not just that Amy Adams Strunk doesn't speak publicly. It's that there's a team of people surrounding these statements to speak on behalf of the owners. So you don't really know what she's thinking other than she'll rubber stamp it and say, all right, put it out there. 615-737-1045. There's also the idea of, like, what's inspiring about playing for a pre-fired coach, though. Like we talked about pre-fired, Brian Callahan feeling pre-fired this year, Mike McCarthy pre-fired in Dallas last year. There's nothing inspirational about the current situation. They don't have to necessarily be playing. They're going to play for whoever's out there, right? They don't care that much about the coach. Jeff Simmons had some, I thought, very mature thoughts on Cam Ward's "we ass" statement on Sunday night. Brian Callahan, I thought, had some very disagreeable statements on Cam Ward's frustrations. We'll play both of those for you coming up next.
It is 12:03. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Nashville SC are U.S. Open Cup champs, lifting the first trophy in club history with a 2-1 win at Austin FC Wednesday. Hani Mukhtar, the opening goal in the 17th minute. Sam Surridge with the game winner with a PK in the 60th minute. There will be a celebration at Geodis Park Sunday afternoon at 5, but NSC does have a quick turnaround. 2 games left in the MLS regular season. They jump back in Saturday at Montreal. Titans' first injury report of the week came out Wednesday. Right tackle J.C. Latham still not practicing with the hip injury. Calvin Ridley also did not practice with the knee/elbow, and running back Tajay Spears returned to practice as a limited participant. Thursday Night Football is in the NFC West tonight. The Rams hosting the Niners, a matchup of 3-1 teams. Quarterback Brock Purdy out tonight for San Francisco with the toe injury. Mac Jones gets the start again. Kickoff at 7:15. You can hear the Westwood One call right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home. For the Titans and Vols, this is 104.5 The Zone.
So a lot of discussion about Cam Ward's statement on the 0-4 Titans. We ask. T-shirts are made. 3HL's doing Titans colonoscopy Monday. A lot of butt jokes coming out about the butt of the league, which at this point is Tennessee. Now, they're not the only 0-4 team. The Jets also exist at this point in time, though I think if you looked at the Jets roster and you looked at the Titans roster, you would probably take New York over Tennessee. Cam Ward is frustrated. He is including himself in that indictment. It's not a personal attack, simply honest about the state of things. I loved it, not just because it's a fun quote and an honest quote, and I appreciate honesty, but because I think Cam Ward has standards that this organization is not meeting. I think Cam Ward has standards for himself and his teammates that he wants elevated. And instead of that, they've fallen well short. I think he addressed all of that in the sentences or the rest of the quote that wasn't as easy to aggregate. Robert, do you have Cam Ward back there from Sunday night in Houston at your convenience before we get to what his head coach and Jeffrey Simmons had to say?
I mean, if we keeping a buck right now, we ass. So we 0-4. We have, at this point, we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games, and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in, especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all 3 faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet, and that's just something that, you know, we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better, and we're doing that, but it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
Thank God somebody in that organization is willing to give an honest appraisal of what is happening right now. Because the rest of it is sugarcoating and couching and excuse-making. And there is accountability also from head coach and players and things like that. But then Brian Callahan's commentary on it yesterday, which was not attacking Cam Ward, because Cam Ward doesn't take out the coach in that quote, doesn't take out his teammates. If anything, he is pointing to himself and saying, no, I need to be better so that we can be better, because he did not have a good day either. Brian Callahan spoke yesterday at the podium, and it was his first opportunity in front of media to respond to said quote.
He's still he's a young player. You know, he's a number 1 overall pick. He's the face of a franchise, if you will. He's got high expectations for himself. We have high expectations around him, and we all want to meet those. And his ability to be in that spotlight in that moment, I think, is a growing process for him. I think he's growing up. I think he's starting to understand the weight of his words, what those things mean when he speaks and everyone's listening and watching. And then even though he says, you know, he follows up the commentary with a lot of the right things, it's the one-liner that gets taken. And, you know, he's learning how to deal with you guys and how to understand how to have those conversations and still maintain the image that he wants to maintain as a starting quarterback. So growing up is not always easy, and I think there's some things that he's learning along the way, just like we all do.
All right. And I told you what my issues were with that. I thought it was not intentionally patronizing, but unintentionally patronizing. I think Cam Ward is very mature. Cam Ward cares about, 3 things, maybe 4, if you include fishing. He cares about his family. He cares about football. He cares about his teammates. He cares about his dog, and he likes to fish. That's about the list of things that Cam Ward is interested. They've got the thing, Lucas, that is what's more difficult to find, an athlete with the right mindset, like the kind of I don't give a bleep about anything but the job that I'm supposed to do, like the killer mentality that you talk about with Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, athletes at the highest, Tiger Woods at the highest level of their profession, or is it the talent that's more difficult to find?
Probably the former, because, how often do we see the talent not be complimented by that side of things?
Will Levis.
Now, I will also say some of those names that you listed, I loved hearing that from Cam Ward. Refreshing honesty, a player that's fired up. He's just over this. This is new territory for him. But at the same time, what elite starting quarterbacks can you cite having some sort of similar reaction like that in a post-game press conference?
Certainly not one
quarterbacks
that are Marcus Mariota would have to repent in front of us. Yeah. They would bring in a priest to exorcise Marcus's demons. If
quarterbacks that are at the level that Cam wants to get to, right? I understand why Titans fans love it. I am a fan too. At the very core, I am a fan, and I also have a positive response to that because this sucks. And so to hear the quarterback reciprocate that is great. But when I say I understand what Brian Callahan is saying, I'm talking about that from the perspective of carrying yourself as the franchise quarterback, the face of a team, the leader of a team. I just ask that you cite an example of somebody who is at a level or has been at a level that Cam is trying to reach, that you can point to that has had a similar reaction after a bad game, a bad start to the season, a bad performance.
Joe Burrow didn't make enough starts, I think, to get frustrated at 0-4. Patrick Mahomes sat his entire rookie year, so he didn't have those kind of outbursts. I think Cam Ward's situation is unique. Peyton Manning lived in a time where there wasn't social media, and Peyton Manning's obviously not going to pop off quite that way. Just because it hasn't happened before doesn't mean that he can't be all of those things, though, Lucas. I don't think that
no,
it doesn't. To me, it doesn't make him any less able to be.
Of course it doesn't.
Okay,
of course it doesn't.
So then and I'm not saying that that's what you're arguing.
The point is,
my rebuttal to that is simply just because I haven't heard it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
I think Brian Callahan's point is there is a way that you want your franchise quarterback to carry himself in these settings. And saying,
if you're an embattled head coach who's already under fire.
We've lost a quarter of our bleeping games, would not fall into that category, right? And Jeffrey Simmons echoed that sentiment this week.
In a different way, though. And there are two, but that's an important distinction that you pointed out there. Every coach, almost to a fault, not to a fault, but to a man, will tell you that the best teams, Brian Callahan has also said this, and it's just not just because Brian Callahan said it, but because Mike Vrabel and Mike Mularkey and Jeff Fisher and Mike Munch, all these people have said this in some form or fashion. The best teams that they've been a part of are player-led. So if the locker room wants to police Cam Ward one way, that's fine. I am more respectful of the locker room taking it a certain type of way, and particularly Jeff Simmons, because I know Jeff has a lot of these same attributes, but Jeff doesn't play the most important position in sports, not the most public position in sports, the way that the quarterback does. And I just didn't like, my biggest issue, Lucas, was I didn't like Brian Callahan categorizing it as growing up, because Cam Ward is very mature.
Can we hear from Jeff then?
Yes.
On the same topic.
I get it. Just one.
Me and Cam talked about that off record. I'm going to keep that between me and Cam. But, at the end of the day, we 0-4. And when you turn on the tape, everybody like I said, Cam has the right to speak how you want to speak to the media. But, I had some advice for him. And like I said, I keep that off record. But at the end of the day, we all have when these microphones in front of you, they can blow up, just one part of what you're saying. But I think at the end of the day, man, when you turn on the tape, it's the reason why we come in and be like, we right there. It's the reason why we come in and be like, I feel like we have a chance to go win football games on Sundays because it's the small things that when you get into fourth quarters and we talking about it, and I'm sure you guys hear from Denard, like, we get into the fourth quarter and start making up things. We're missing too many tackles. He showed us a stat today to where we had 2 missed tackles in the first half versus in our second half of the games, we got like 35 missed tackles. And that shows, a football team that not doing the things and being holding that stamina into the second half. So I think that's the thing we need to focus on to win football games. And, like I said, it's the reason why I come in and say, we are right there. It's just a small thing we can fix that's going to help us win a football game.
All right, but Jeff's doing it differently than Callahan did. He's saying, I offered him some advice. He's entitled to say what he wants.
I guess maybe I'm failing to see a big difference between the two. Right? Callahan talking about, that's the process of growing up, and then hearing a veteran saying, I offered him some advice on that, to me is communicating the same thing. Hey, young fella, like, this is,
but
just
Jeff
so you
is
know.
acknowledging that the quarterback has a right to speak the way that he wants, to express himself the way that he wants.
Okay, so you are saying that Callahan is insinuating that Cam doesn't have the right to speak.
I think he's growing up. He's starting to understand the weight of his words. Good. His words carry a lot of weight. They clearly resonated with a lot of different people. What they mean, he's starting to understand the weight of his words, what they mean when he speaks, and everyone's listening and watching. What did Cam Ward say that was incorrect? What they mean. He said what he meant to say. The thing that I take away from this is coaches will say this too. They won't say anything publicly, or at least they shouldn't say anything publicly that they wouldn't say in front of the team. Do you think Cam Ward would say anything differently to the team in that situation? That Cam Ward in the locker room is conducting himself any differently, and that's not being received in a certain type of way? What's wrong with that, other than he used the word ass?
No, I think he would say the same thing to the team. So
what, Robert?
So you were alleging that coaches wouldn't say anything to the media that they wouldn't say in front of the team.
They're not supposed to.
And
that's just wrong. There are a million things that a coach would say to his team and not to the media.
That he wouldn't say anything in front of the media that he wouldn't say to the team. That he would message through the media as opposed to talking directly to the team. You see what I'm saying? Did I phrase that incorrectly?
I maybe the first time. I don't, either way.
Coaches don't say anything to media that they wouldn't say to the team. Am I saying that wrong?
Sure, no, now I get it. I understand what you're saying.
But the other way around, does everything you say to the team have to be taken to the media?
No.
Okay, so I think that's what Jeff's point would probably. I feel like that would.
If he decides that that's if it's his decision,
yes, it is,
that he wants to message that way,
and we love it,
then let him message that way. It's not even a media thing. It's like I want them to have that attitude.
Sure, I just think Jeff's point and Callahan's point would probably be, hey, not all of that messaging has to also go out to the media. The only messaging that matters is what you give to the team.
Why couch it?
Did anyone ask him?
Is that not the reality of the situation? I'm sorry, Robert.
It is.
Go ahead.
No, nothing is incorrect about what he said.
You're good. Did anyone ask him this week after talking to Callahan and talking to Jeff if he would have rephrased that question? If he would have done it differently, if he could do it over again?
So that's not the order in which we talk to people. We talk to Callahan, then we talk to Cam, then we talk to Jeff.
I would be interested to know, and it's probably going to be waterlogged by then, but next week, after talking to your team, after talking to Callahan, would you have changed the way you said that, or are you happy with the way you presented it?
God, if I'm still asking him about this stuff after the Arizona game.
Sure.
No, I get what you're saying. But, I mean, he was notably more tight-lipped at the podium. I mean, that's fine, but I just don't want him to have to – I don't want to see Cam Ward, any part of Cam Ward, curbed because he ruffled a few feathers on a 0-4 team and a 3-18 coach and some business executives that don't like the idea that there's a Titans logo above or below "We Ass" shirts. Like, I think that's so soft. 615-737-1045. Nate Washington will give his thoughts on this matter, and then hopefully we can move on, thank God. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Nate Washington is here, as is the custom. On Thursdays, always good to see you. My friend, I don't know what I was expecting to take place in Houston this past Sunday, Nate, but I certainly wasn't expecting the offense to be as completely non-functioning as it was. What was your takeaway in real time? And I don't know what your process is for reviewing these games, Nate, but if you could maybe give the audience a little bit of insight, what your initial thoughts were, and then maybe after you had some time to ruminate a little bit on a 26-0 shutout.
Oh, man, it was exactly what I expected to be. Desperate. It had no identity. They had no understanding, clear understanding, in my opinion, of how they wanted to approach this game. It was, let's just see whatever we can do, in my opinion. And I perceived that both during the game and even watching film. I'm starting to understand now that a lot of these issues they're having are, while our skill plays, technique type of plays, I also believe that they're not being set up for success. And that's a coaching problem. That's huge. I went and watched the film last night, and, as I stated at the beginning of the season, I'm excited too about having Cam Ward, about having a pivotal part of our organization be now here, and I have an opportunity to be that franchise guy. But in the same sense, he's young. And in my opinion, not a 5,000-yard passer coming from college. He's not that guy. He's a playmaker. And with that being said, you have to set these type of guys up. I look at a young Ben Roethlisberger coming into the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, we ran the ball. We ran the ball and made our wins off of allowing that defense to do what it did best, and that was hunt. And I just think it should be a similar formula for this team. While you still have some mistakes in the defense, to come out of a game, playing 3 quarters and holding the team to 6 points is major. That's a major thing for a defense, So you have a defense that is doing enough to give your offense a chance. And this offense just hasn't shown up, no identity. I've asked for, hurry-up offenses to be looked into, not only because it fatigues the defense, but also because it eliminates all exotic looks. It gives a very vanilla general look for your quarterback, and it gives him an opportunity to go out and face basic coverages. So there's a lot of things that they can be doing that I just don't feel like they're doing. And in the very moment that they do have any success, the first drive, you look at it, they're marching the ball down the field, and here it is. You run a trick play to no avail. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the flea flicker in the beginning of the first drive, and then 2 drives later, you're having some more success marching the ball down the field, and you run another trick play. So I don't understand it. I think this coaching staff really, truly needs to identify what they would like to accomplish with this offense. And it can't be desperation, because in desperation, you have absolutely no identity.
Well, that's what those trick plays. And listen, Nate, I understand if you're in a position like these coaches are, where you are just trying to manufacture something, if you think that you're not going to be able to win the way that a typical or an average NFL team might win. But to your point, you expressed these concerns last week when you were on with us with Brian Callahan's messaging of, we're going to find out who the more desperate team is. I don't want the coaches acting in a position of desperation, nor do I want the players acting in a position of desperation. They need a plan, to stick to it, to be clear and concise. And if you live with those decisions and you also die by those decisions, that's fine, because you had that belief that this is what we know, this is what we do, this is who we are, let's go out there and execute it. If we execute these things, we'll get the job done. It just feels like they are in a situation where I don't know. And again, I'm no kind of schematic expert. I don't study tape the way that you or other players or Greg Cosell or anybody like this would do on a regular basis. But I have no concept of what the Titans hang their hat on as an offensive identity, which I think you just articulated.
And I would like to add to that, but that one of the greatest defensive minds I had an opportunity of working with, Coach Dick LeBeau from the Pittsburgh Steelers, used to always say, the greatest quarterbacks are methodical. They do not mind taking what you give them, and they march down the field, and that's how they beat teams. It's not about the big plays all the time, but it's about the ability to take what the team gives you. And as I'm watching film last night, we had a high success rate in inside runs. We were looking at gaining anywhere between 3 to 6 yards, with a couple of inside runs going over 10 yards, and they went away from that, not only in the first half but in the second half as well. And I think those type of things are what I was asking for. We need to keep this game in the middle of the field for Cam for right now. I would love to see a more quick game, which he became successful with the more they got, in the passing situations. But once again, him being this young, him being a playmaker, this is not an offense set up to allow his arm and his talent to win ball games right now. You have to have structure about how you approach your run game and allowing that to open up your pass game for these young receivers and this young quarterback.
Nate Washington, former Titans wide receiver, with us on 104.5 The Zone. We had Dick LeBeau here for, I think it was 2 years, at least 1 year, under Mike Mularkey. Anything that man says, you just sat around. It was like a campfire story.
Yeah.
You just sit around and listen to Dick LeBeau tell you about football life, a Renaissance man.
All-time storyteller. Nate, your first year here was that 2009 season, right? The 0-6 start, VY, and it turns around, and CJ going for 2K. Obviously, completely different circumstances, and the Titans had that in the back pocket, right, to put in Vince Young and find that spark. But just from a cultural perspective, what does a locker room have to be able to stay in it through the course of a difficult season like what the Titans are experiencing right now? And by your estimation, outside looking in, how much of that do you think the Titans have from a cultural perspective?
Well, I to be honest with you, Lucas, I'm very reluctant on speaking on anything going on in the locker room currently because, it's hard to speculate. I would love to say what is or what isn't happening, but, I'm not being in there. I can't speak for the guys or what's occurring now, but I can definitely speak for 2009 and that transition for me and understanding what my new role was with the Tennessee Titans. And, learning what I had learned from Pittsburgh was, it didn't matter your background. It didn't matter what city or state you were from, what school you went to. The best leaders interacted with every single guy in that locker room. I recall times of being with some of the leaders from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we would be out with our special teams guys at dinner and our kickers and hanging out and, being with offensive linemen that did have different backgrounds and those type of things, because the leaders knew that it was important to keep every single guy together and understanding that, no matter where you come from, we have a common goal here in this organization to get done. And that's what it was, in the beginning of 2009. It was a bunch of new faces. Me and Kenny Britt were obviously considered to be assets to the team, and we were just getting there. And then we were trying to put a lot of things together in the beginning. And after that 6th loss, I seen Blaine kind of ask Coach Mack about it, and it was true. He sent us all home. We kind of were taken back by it because we were expecting to practice that day, but at the same time, he didn't come across as being upset with us. He came across as being empathetic, saying, things are hard right now. We're going to figure this out, but for right now, we just want you to breathe. Make sure you understand what this game is about and take a day off. And we took a day off and we came back. And I think that's how actually CJ became that 2,000-yard runner that year, because we found our identity after that 6th loss. We found that hanging our hat on that run game, no matter if he had 25 carries or 35 carries, we were going to make those things happen, and it turned into us winning 8 out of 10 games. So, we were kind of flustered in the beginning as well as finding an identity, fitting in new pieces and understanding what, some of our young guys was going to do, very similar to this current team. But in that locker room, you had a group of guys that were understanding. I hate to beat a dead horse, but nothing became desperate. It became a hunger about winning and proving that we can be a better football team than we were the week before losing.
No, but I think that I'm sorry, Lucas.
No. I mean, you were probably gonna follow up with something similar. Just the phrase, the talk of desperation, right?
Just because now, Nate, I'm sitting in this post game with Cam Ward on Sunday and the rest of the media, and he has the frustrations boil over a little bit, I don't think I've seen Cam Ward bothered at any point. Now, I obviously didn't cover him in college or anything like that. I don't know how he grew up in high school. I'm sure Cam Ward has been frustrated before. But the whole thing, the whole book on this quarterback is that he's unbothered, that he doesn't get like this in games. And all of a sudden, he's 0-4. He's in a situation where the messaging is desperate, and he feels, I think it's making him feel a little desperate. So it's not like you're beating a dead horse, but there's a common theme here on why things are unraveling and that he is getting worse.
Yeah, I see it. It's definitely changed from week one to this past week that I've seen on film. In week one, I seen a guy behind center that was wanting to come out, go through his progressions, hit his drop steps, and those type of things. As of to this current week, I see him a lot in hero mode, and that causes you to get away from your foundation, taking what the defense gives you, hitting your first read or going through your progression and those type of reads. Now he's getting in a situation where he wants to make the big play. He understands that a lot of the success relies on him, and that's not a very good position to put your young guy in, because him being, as you stated, him having the mindset that he has of being a winner and doing whatever it takes, a lot of times it can get you out of pocket. And when I say that, it means missing your first read, missing what that defense is giving you, and just taking those progressional type of drives instead of looking for that big play. And I think that's something that he's going to have to get back to, just doing his job and understanding that, he can only control what he can control. And while he has this bigger mindset to want to be a winner, he has to be a leader in a different way right now. And I think it's definitely showing in his game. It's reflecting that he's not becoming desperate, but he definitely wants to win, and he definitely wants to make the big play that's going to put the Titans offense over the edge.
I hate it for him. At NWash85 is where you can follow Nate the Great, Nate Washington, here with us on 104.5 The Zone.
So obviously Cam's comments made a ripple effect in terms of the conversation, the discourse that followed post-game after the Texans loss. Nate and Brian Callahan has talked about it. Jeffrey Simmons, Cody Barton talking to Cam about, hey, your words matter, the advice from Jeff, all of these things. Titans fans love it because they see it as a refreshing, honest perspective from the rookie quarterback that is as frustrated as everybody else has been this season. But Buck and I have been talking about this, which is probably fruitless as two people that have never been in a high-level locker room or even close.
Rude.
For you, how would you react to that? If you're a part of this Titans locker room and you see a rookie quarterback saying that, do you like just the unfiltered reaction? Are you kind of having a side conversation with him? How do you take in all of that? Cam Ward's words after the Houston game.
The first thing I'm telling him is, personally, I agree with you. Personally, I love it. Personally, I'm behind you 110%, no matter what. But unfortunately, as every job is, you guys have a job, being on the radio and the perception that you give, there's only so far that you can go, and stating certain things shows a reflection, whether it's honest or not, on an organization and a group of men that are doing their best right now. And there's always, I guess you could say, a better way to say things when you're in position of leadership and those type of things and doing the right thing, but, at the end of the day, the understanding is there. You have a very real, transparent leader in Cam Ward, and a guy not willing to shy away from the accountability that this team has put out there. And I think a lot of fans will get behind that. And I'm pretty sure his teammates will as well. But, I hate to say it in this regard, but the best way I can explain it is, we used to call it being a company man. Being a company man and being his teammate, you got to come out and say, I don't agree with them, and it's improper. But, me, myself, personally, behind the scenes, I'm telling him, I get it, but it's a different way you can handle it. You know what I'm saying? I think there's, especially when you got these kids now coming into the league, there's a sense of realness that they have with interacting with social media and those type of things that they just don't understand, can't translate into possible interviews or meetings with the national media. So I think he'll understand that. But it's a two-edged sword. As a player, as a teammate, me personally, I love it. But as a person that is in that locker room and understand that it's a bigger picture for the organization, those type of things, you just got to find a better way to say what you feel.
Yeah, obviously I respect that perspective, Nate. I guess the issue, and Lucas points out that neither of us have played high-level athletics or athletics at all. Hell, anytime one of us steps on an intramural field, Lucas feels like he blows out an ankle.
My tendonitis has been acting up.
I'm so sorry
all
for
morning.
Oh,
struggles.
Lucas, come on, man.
We are truly pathetic, Nate. I mean, it's just for people who are tasked with talking about athletics, you could not find a less athletic show. I guess from my perspective, and you are welcome to push back on this, Nate, but I just don't understand the harm in what it is that he did, because that doesn't, to me, you may differ, it doesn't make him any less of a company man, because he's also in that moment saying we. It's, he's pointing at himself and saying we, the offense, me, I did not play well today. We did not play well today. And maybe it's just, all things need to be kept internal, and that's the way that the best teams operate. I mean, God knows you know this as a former Pittsburgh Steelers player. The way that Mike Tomlin handled Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Ben Roethlisberger all at the same time without all of that nonsense getting out anywhere, really, until the very end is impressive. And we know what kind of a track record of success Mike Tomlin has had. But I don't get the harm, if that makes sense.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from, Book. And, the perception that we have now, being in media, being on the fan side of watching the game, we love the transparency and the honesty from Cam Ward. We understand that this is the situation that they're in, and finally somebody has said it, but being in the organization, going to work to each other every day, wanting this and desiring the same outcomes that Cam Ward does as a teammate, as you stated, being in that locker room, there's just certain things that you just keep in house, in order to make these things work, in order to make these relationships coincide, in order to make this work environment have less friction and those type of things behind closed door, and the continuity to continue to build. There's just certain things that and ways that you have to go about addressing every aspect of this game, not only the practice and the film work and the meetings with your organization, but also your words to the media. And I think, while being on this side, we don't find much harm in it, but being in that locker room, going to work with Cam every day and trying to do the best you can on Sundays, that's just not the perception as a teammate, nor as a team that you want to put out there, that you're accepting of the fact that you may be that word that he used. We don't want to accept that word in the locker room, you know what I'm saying? So moving forward, that's just how the players look at it, whether it's a reality or not. It's very similar to gamblers, right? You can go to the casino, and although there's a possibility of you losing, you never want to say I'm a lose, or I lost, or I'm a loser today. You never really want to say that, because it kind of jinx you. It kind of sets precedent for your next trip to the casino, and it's very similar to this game. You don't never want to really live in those words of we are actually what we are. We want to put the work in and become better, if anything.
And try to manifest it. That makes a lot more sense.
Exactly.
Well, this is why we appreciate Nate Washington's perspective, because he is smart and we are dumb. Thank you for your time, buddy. We appreciate it. Thanks. It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you guys, man. I appreciate it. See you next week.
That's
Love you, Nate.
The main man, Nate Washington, with us on 104.5 The Zone. You have to stop doing it while we're saying goodbye to people.
What did you say at the beginning?
They can't hear you.
He didn't hear you, buddy.
He definitely heard me.
He didn't hear you, buddy.
Look at him smiling. He definitely heard me.
It's because you're funny looking. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. ED can wreck your confidence. It can impact your relationship, your mental health, and even your sense of identity. These aren't cookie-cutter treatments that the Tennessee Men's Clinic has on offer. They're here to help. And they are urology-based, staffed with multiple licensed providers who specialize in men's sexual health issues to get you back on the right track. They use proven treatments tailored to your specific situation. No one size fits all. And forget waiting around. They have in-house labs so you get your blood work results in minutes, not days. Your initial appointment, only $99, and includes a full medical consultation, blood work, and, if medically advised, a test dose right there in the office. So stop procrastinating and call today at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or book easily online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So Thursday Night Football, there's really not a lot of great matchups on paper this weekend, but Niners at Rams at least features 2 3-1 teams. Now, the Niners are down tremendous. They will be without Brock Purdy again.
And Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall.
And Nick Bosa.
Is Kittle still out, right?
He is still on injured reserve, I believe.
So,
is it confirmed that quarterback's going to be out for them?
Yes.
Okay, I missed that.
The toe, same deal. He came back, played a game, won.
Mac Jones going to have to toe the line.
Back to Mac Jones. So
he talked right over your joke.
Oh, sorry, Robert.
Just soothing
Great
us.
transition. Poor Mac Jones, though. He didn't get his revenge game.
Against the Jags?
Yeah.
You have to be there for more than a year to have a revenge game.
No, I disagree.
He actually played decent ball for them, too, at the end of the year.
Yeah, it turns out Kyle Shanahan should have taken Mac Jones instead of trading up for Trey Lance.
I do have a fun fact for you guys. I guess I could share this tomorrow, and this is going to inevitably jinx me, so it doesn't matter. C.J. Stroud has never scored an offensive touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens in 3 matchups. They played in the first game of his rookie year, and I believe they just kicked field goals. Same thing in the second game when they played in the playoffs of his rookie year, and they played in the playoffs again last year, and they had a punt return touchdown. C.J. Stroud has yet to throw or rush for a touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens. So now he will naturally throw for 5, rush for 3.
I don't know,
and
man.
they'll put him in on defense, and
Brother,
he'll get a pick 6.
They are rotten, and he is broken. This is what I mean, we talked about this on Monday. This is what I fear for Cam Ward, that he's just going to start air-mailing potential touchdown passes because he's shook behind a bad offensive line.
Do you guys? He is shook as a player. It seems like the quote for this tweet is C.J. Stroud on improving explosiveness. Quote: "Being 23, I'm not fully in my grown man body all the way yet. I'm still growing." I would play it for us, but I don't. I don't think it gets much better than reading that flatly. Okay, let's listen to it.
He's a growing boy.
Yeah, I think just the program that I was on with Clint, it was really good for me. I was in here really early, just trying to, take a step forward in my, being 23. I'm not fully in my grown man body all the way yet. I'm still growing every year, and I just think I gotta just continue to be hard on myself about not only just lifting weights but eating the right foods. That's been a big thing too.
That was sent to me with the quote: "If this guy cooks us, we are done."
Hey, if there was ever an opportunity for a get-right game for the Ravens defense, it's this week.
Man.
Well,
don't you stop growing around 21?
Maybe that's your noggin. When's your brain stop? Maybe your brain grows longer than your body does.
He's a growing boy.
Do you know what part of your body never stops growing?
Your ears.
Correct. Do you know what part of your body is fully grown when you were born as a baby?
I have jokes.
Your eyeballs.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is. I'm full of them. I am full of them. My dad said I am a master of useless knowledge.
I can
get back
confirm.
out there and weed eat. What are you doing in the house?
All right. Let's just do the polls and get out of here for the day.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Who has more pressure on them this weekend, Bama or Vandy? 86% say Bama, and that is the correct answer.
That feels right.
Yeah. Which Titans front office member, past or present, do you blame the most for the current situation? 67% say John Robinson.
Yeah.
12.9% said Chad Brinker. 12.6% said Rand Carthon. 7.3% said Burke Nihill.
We didn't put Amy in the poll for a reason. The blame still largely sits at John Robinson's feet, though they're welcome to stop, shrugging that off at a certain point. They've had 3 years to fix this.
It's that simple, right? He got them in the hole. Nothing has been done to get them out of the hole other than hopefully drafting Cameron Ward 6.
Yes, sucking and then earning the right to draft a quarterback #1 overall. They didn't do anything to that other than suck.
What did you think of Shedeur Sanders miming his answers in the locker room? So this was a response from Rex Ryan, who on Monday on ESPN basically said in so many words, stop talking, shut your mouth, shut up and dribble, yada, yada, yada. And so Shedeur, when fielding questions about Dylan Gabriel being named the Brown starter this week, did this thing where he's got this big smile. He's obviously doing a bit, and he's answering the questions, but he's not actually speaking. He's miming the answers.
Wait, I do have the audio.
Oh, no.
Oh, please.
Wow, it's not as bad as I thought.
So that's Shedeur Sanders in the Browns locker room the other day. A performative, okay, you don't want me to talk, I'm not going to talk. So what did you think of Shedeur Sanders miming his answers in the locker room? Funny or immature? 86% say immature.
Robert would not make eye contact with me after he did that silence joke. Also, Teresa Walker has texted me and said, brains are fully formed at 25.
Oh, thank you,
he's
T.
got a little bit of noggin growing then.
Yeah, but not physically.
No, not physically, but his noggin will keep growing.
He's a quarterback. Noggin, pretty important.
It's a good thing that Lucas's noggin has fully grown.
Mm-hmm. Would you say he's still maturing as a quarterback? Or is he a fully formed, totally mature, early 20s, no room to grow,
I don't know
finished
anything
product?
about him.
Those are the polls.
That's the show. That's going to do it for us tonight. Prime time early. What time you want to go tonight, Robert?
Let's do it at 13 o'clock.
No.
That's now.
That's in 7 minutes from now.
No, I don't do military time. I was maybe the 32nd of February.
All right. Very good. We will be on A to Z Sports Prime Time at some point before Thursday Night Football because we want you to watch the football. We also want to watch the football. Should be fun. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Coach Dave McGinnis, Brett Kern. We'll have a great time. See you then. Somebody said Lucas's ass keeps growing.